We're now approaching our final destination. We're now approaching our final destination, Itchy and Scratchy Land, the amusement park of the future where nothing can possibly go wrong. Destination.
Good morning. How are you? Good. Oh, my stars. Seriously, what the fuck is going on?
We're now approaching our final destination, Itchy and Scratchy Land, the amusement park of the future where nothing can possibly go wrong. Possibly go wrong.
There we go.
That's the first thing that's ever gone wrong.
Good morning. Let's see how many fusterclucks we can have today. Let's see if it works. Shall we? I'm looking at the computer, not the camera. Sorry about that. I've been messing with stuff. Again. I really should just do a thing where it's like, I really should just call this Taya messes with shit and frustrates the audience and then gets mad when people give her advice. That's what we should call the channel. Good morning. How are you? Let me just, hang on. Stop fiddling with hairbrushes, Taya. Yeah, it looks like shit. What I should do is stream in order to motivate me to go get my hair done. I haven't had it done in a while. I need to go get it done. Anyway, hi. How you doing? Let's hope that this actually sticks today. So for those that aren't aware and are only watching today, I tried to stream yesterday about the Digital Millennium Copyright Act of 1998, specifically answering a question by my friend and viewer Judith, okay, and she asked me what they're talking about. So the Internet Archive posted a thing, I believe WikiLeaks retweeted it, and there was a thing where it's like, okay, so what you got to understand is there's a lot of history that, again, I was talking about this yesterday, that when you sort of just picked up a smartphone and started interneting on social media and browser and all that stuff, I think that, first of all, people don't realize that this stuff was built on the back of people like me, okay? People like me who bought into a promise that the internet was going to be something other than this sort of capitalist beast that we're seeing, this US-dominated, US military, the sort of intelligence agencies, this censorship, this Puritan fucking bullshit from the United States, right? They're pretty, there's one thing the United States are unified on, and that is censorship, okay, and trying to censor. And their constant fight over freedom of speech is because their government, I mean, honestly, I've said this before, that if I lived in the United States, I wouldn't trust the government either. Okay, they're highly censorious. They are, give them an inch in terms of, the erosion of civil liberties or the desire to censor their enemies. And this is actually coming a lot from the United States, and they're sort of, again, I love America and its complexity. And again, it's like 50 different countries trying to coexist. Shouldn't exist. That's what American exceptionalism as a concept is about, which is that it's a country that really shouldn't exist and it really shouldn't survive. And yet it does. And that's the thing that's great about America, is its dysfunction. But like all dysfunctional relationships, it spills out when it spills out onto the street and into your neighbor's house and affects the whole neighborhood. Then the whole neighborhood has to turn around and go, well, you guys just sort your shit out. You're fucking up our day as well. And I think that that's, like, to coin a metaphor around speech and around the current discourse, is that, and if there's any Americans watching, this is one thing. For all this talk about empathy and inclusion and diversity, there's one thing I can't seem to get across to people, or they shut down because they end up, again, I understand why. First of all, because there's no money in what I talk about. And second of all, there's, there's this tendency to shut down when someone says something you don't like about something that is deep in your identity. And there's one thing that the Americans are united on, and that is that America's fucking great. Okay? Not just whether it should be made great again. They just believe it's great already, or, sort of there's this idea. And it's true. Like, there is an aspect to America that is a incredible, innovative, white-knuckling, frustrating thing. And the problem with being, when you critique America on the flip side of that, is that you get accused of being anti-American. It's actually quite the opposite. I said this when was it? Was it yesterday? I lost track of time. There were so many streams yesterday, I can't remember if it was 5 days ago or a year ago. Now it's like whatever. Hopefully we stay live. That would be nice. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, Caitlin Johnston, great journalist. I talk about her a lot. She's Australian, and she gets asked a lot because she's a critic of American imperialism and anti-war and, all that sort of, anti-CIA, all that sort of stuff. And it's funny because Americans have this tendency to call facts conspiracy theories when it's actually documented. I said to Paul last night, it was funny, and I was, because we're watching Stranger Things, and I rolled my eyes, and it's like, I can't help but think that with these like the X-Files and all these series, they're just propaganda, so that people think that any kind of overarching power dynamic or power structure becomes beyond critique, because once you figure out what's actually happening with a lot of layers of the government or the world, that sort of stuff, it sounds like a TV show and it gets easily written off. And I found it really interesting watching Stranger Things. We're on to season 2, so don't spoil me. But this idea of sort of incorporating MK Ultra, something like MK Ultra, into a fictional story, it kind of dismisses MK Ultra, right? It's very interesting. It has this weird, perverse opposite effect where, because it's somehow subconsciously entertainment, and it acknowledges a real thing that happened, which was MK Ultra. There's a trivialization that occurs through media and entertainment. I'll get to the DMCA stuff, don't worry. It's just a broader point around when you start talking about history, and because I'm going to go with this copyright stuff, I'm going to be going into world government stuff and the corporations lobbying sort of, the UN and all of these corporate entities that have immense power. Once you start going there, people start to think that you're a conspiracy theorist, but this stuff is documented. And it's just really funny because MK Ultra is a really funny example. Not funny, it's horrific. But there's gaslighting that happens at the government, especially the US government, CIA level, right, is that there's this whole dynamic, and it's just hilarious because I've been sitting there for years, for how long, saying this woke shit. If I could design the perfect weapon to destroy the left and any attempts on the internet to organize or have a conversation or talk about anything, my remotely socialist or left wing, if I could design, you can quote me, you can go back and you can see, I will say, if I could design the perfect weapon to implode online leftist discourse, that would be it. That would be the thing that I designed. Okay. And I've said this, and it's interesting to see this happen because now that you've got this overarching stuff and this arc of history, and when you look at history, you look at what's documented and you look at the pattern of sort of gaslighting and everything else, it's very clear what this woke shit and all, this, I mean, Fox News is Fox News, but this woke weapon in particular, it is perfect, absolutely perfect. It's a perfect way to pull everyone into a distraction, into a something where no organizing gets done. No one can agree on anything. They end up infighting and splitting and moving in and radicalizing into violent things, so that then the US can justify this. Again, I'm not saying it's all orchestrated. A lot of it is phenomenon, right? There's lots of moving parts. Again, like I said, my essay on this stuff that I am working on, like, again, around other things, because I don't make any money from this. Tim Pool and people like that can just spread bullshit and be part of that machine and fund it. I found out, who was it that said this? Because I watch a lot of different things, right? And again, they're all bad faith. They were all leaving stuff out. Like that's why I watch Sam Cedar and I watch, Emma Vigeland, and her face like has just mean girl all over it. Her whole demeanor is a perfectly example case study in someone who has extraordinary dissonance going on. And it's like amazing how she can talk about like Monsanto and how they hoodwinked everybody and told everyone this and lied to everyone and had this whole orchestrated campaign. She can talk about big tobacco. She can talk about all this like war stuff and how, MSN, all these media organizations were co-opted into sort of supporting the Iraq war. And then she can turn around and go, with pure hate in her eyes, she can completely demonize radical feminist and radical feminist perspective. She's not even charitable to it. Anyway, it's a whole other side point. But when you see that, all I can see is somebody, and I've seen this again, there's a trend here. I've sort of built out a profile of people who tend to be like a case study. And this is only, I don't know her personally, so I don't know. Could just be performative for pay, lying. I don't think that's the case. What I think with a lot of the girls who are doing this stuff, the anger is a cleverly orchestrated, displaced anger towards their mothers. This is something that I feel, and again, it's just a resentment because mothers were working, mothers were doing feminism, and deep down they just wanted a mum to stay at home, and that's why that generation is sort of, they're all twisted up inside and they're angry at their mothers and they can't explain why. And again, I'm not saying that that's the solution is for women to stay home. I'm saying that there's an unintended consequence of feminism here for mothers, which was that I know I did this, which was I went too far the other way and I was too, and I neglected my kids and I was running a business and I was doing all of this stuff. And I was kind of not paying attention to, that, the fact that, my kids still needed a mother. Okay. And I think that, but these guys, because of their politics, which is good politics, they've fallen into a type of feminism that is one that rejects everything that their mothers did but they can't actually say it. So they sort of displace onto other things and that sort of thing. That's my assessment of that situation. Again, I'm forming that thought. That's an early formed thought. So that's a side point, but I'm talking about this in terms of the broader weapon that's actually happening here, okay? How it's convenient and how it works and who the victims are, and they're victims for various reasons. And I think that might be at least an explanation for some of this sort of, that vitriol. You see it in the face of something that is it's something that it comes from a again, when when you've worked in these sort of, when you work with people and you are intuitive around that stuff, you see something and you go, okay, that's not entirely coming from the issue. That's coming from something else. And I see it there. Anyway, so Sam Cedar said that PragerU was funded with like $10 million of cash. How do you go up against that stuff? You know, how do you go up against well-funded people who are, you know, banking it with lies? You know, they're just telling the truth or going along with the lies and being nice because they're making a living, like a lot of these people. Russell Brand's an exception, but you just see that pathway for people where there's money in bullshit, there's money in lies. And the fact is, like Caitlin, actually back to Caitlin Johnson, she said that the reason why I, as an Australian journalist and as an Australian citizen, I talk about, why do you talk about America all the time? And she said, well, we are de facto, you know, everyone jokes that we're the 51st state, right? We do everything America does. Our dollar is you know, connected. I can't remember, what's the word? Too much. Is tethered, sorry, is the word I was thinking of. Tethered to the US dollar. Lyrica again, sorry. But we're tethered to the US dollar. I live literally in a city, Perth, where we've got a naval base that is the base of the military base for the United States. And she said, you know, all of our policy decisions are put through the United States and all of this stuff. She said, they are my government. The United States are my government. And I think that that's a really good argument. And, you know, there's always that joke that the world should vote for the president of the United States because it affects us all, okay? We've all had to recover from this fuckwit Trump, and now we're all having to suffer because, I'm getting back to the DMCA and the, you know, the entertainment industry and their war on the internet to try and make sure that we didn't get what we were promised. See how it comes back? We all have to suffer as a consequence of that, and they're using these psyops as ways of achieving that and means of achieving that. And one of those early psyops, okay, was this argument about copyright and this argument and the guilt trips around artists needing to be paid, okay, which is interesting because artists are never paid. And the internet, like I said yesterday, was supposed to be something where people could go direct. People had ownership of their own stuff, you know, like Amanda Palmer and, you know, Louis C.K. did it. A bunch of people did it through MySpace. A bunch of people, you know, set up websites and they were going direct and selling things direct. And then slowly over time, because of various things, they used the weapon of copyright to turn around and claim ownership and guilt the internet. Sorry, Paul's making me a coffee. Yeah. I'm on stream. Classy. Anyway, so no, but what happened was that using this big stick and this guilt trip, I'm not going to force you to watch the Don't Copy That Floppy for the fourth fucking time, but, you know, using guilt trips and you know, and when the guilt trips didn't work about like that people who create things need money, then the threats came in and the criminalization of copyright, like this idea, and everyone just accepts it. So when I say, well, what I'm saying is that when you sort of, if you are sort of a DSL and forward internet person or someone who uses the internet using a smartphone or smart device, you may not understand what the promise was initially with the internet. Okay, and that was that, again, the internet would be free, share and share alike, which means share and pay it forward. Okay, collaborate. People could collaborate, have free ideas worldwide. Your identity didn't matter, which is ironic given that now identity is fucking everything, because identity is basically now a segment. One day I'm going to show you how we do. I think I have actually started to do a persona where you actually do segmenting, right? Identity is just a form of market segmentation. Like you've been taking all these quizzes and they like put you in category 1, category 2, and they keep refining that until they build up a profile. Like, this is common knowledge, but I can show you, you know, Like this identity stuff is just another version of they got the kids to do the work for them. You know, which is really weird, where we just willingly started to segment ourselves. You know, but, you know, like I am this and this and this and I am this. And then people are saying, well, I'm not this. I have this. I don't have this. I am this. And fucking all these identity arguments stem from there, right? I'm not 100% sure the lighting's any good either. I've looked at all my lines. I think that's the direction of the light. I am just not a good lighting technician, so I apologize. I look older than I am today. Sorry about that. I'll fix it. But it's just like, okay. So with the DMCA, okay, so the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, the thing about that act, again, you just take this stuff for granted, like, you know, creators need to be paid. Yeah, they do. But this was it was 1990. Okay, so in the lead up to that, there was a lot of stuff that happened with MP3 sharing and people being able to share online. Like more so in the US, it really became a thing because we were still on dial-up. Like our internet is like pretty shithouse. Okay, like this is the max I can get is 140, but it only runs at 80/35, and that's like a good connection. Okay. You get fixed wireless, but it's like you can get, I think the fixed wireless is 250, but we're on the waiting list to get fixed wireless. It's like our internet is shit house and we've always lagged behind, been on dial up and, you know, various other things. But file sharing with the internet, I know I digress, but whatever. Lyrica, disclaimer, on Lyrica, I'm going to be wandering more than usual until it sort of settles down. But okay, so in the lead up to the DMCA, so that was it was a law that was ratified by the United States, which I find annoying because we're in Australia. Australia has our own laws. We ratified that treaty too, but suddenly everything by, you know, whenever they have the big DMCA dick all over everything, it's like, oh yeah, a reminder that America is the default. Under the DMCA, well, how about our act then? How about you do something like that? It's just, this is the thing I'm trying to get through to Americans, which is how pervasive and dominant and what an imposition American culture wars are on the rest of the world, and how everything that you do affects us, and it's all downwind from America. And for everyone who wonders why I talk about Australia, I think it's fair enough to say they are my government too. And that's a really good point by Caitlin. I think it's worth saying over and over again. If you ever ask why people, you know, if anyone ever asks you why you're so interested in America, you go, well, because I'm interested in my government. And they are my government, de facto government. Okay. But also culture-wise, you know, all of your platforms, like over time, over the years, American corporations have gobbled up everything that was free and open and democratic about the internet, about content, about entertainment. We watch American platforms, we watch American news, we watch, you know, all of the, you know, our local news is highly Americanized. Okay, it is all, it's, I mean, we've got our national broadcaster, but that's got its own problems because of said PSYOP that exists to implode even that. Okay, which is that they will just, yeah, anyway, that's a whole other thing. But all opposition has to deal with this woke shit. All opposition has to like be radicalized into some fucking crazy ass right wing liar thing like Tim Pool or, you know, Dave Rubin. All these people exist as a welcoming party for stupidity and radicalization. Okay, even like Benjamin Boyce, what they leave out is important. Okay, Benjamin Boyce and I were friendly. Okay, we talked several times on Skype. I had him on my show. I was going to go on his, and then he didn't put me on because I was talking about left-wing stuff. And then he didn't put me on. Again, maybe it might be because I meander and, you know, there was no real point. People don't understand that I get to my point and they're just too long. Hard to edit. I get it, right? That's cool. I might not be a very good guest, but also I'm seeing a pattern, which is that they were retweeting me when I said something, because I A/B tested it. They were retweeting me when I said something, you know, culture warsy or right wing or a joke or whatever, and they were going dead silent when I said something like, "Hey, this is there's Marxist analysis for this. And then they'd say cultural Marxism, blah, blah, blah. And I'd say, no, that's not correct. Benjamin Boyce and I were friendly. And then he unfollowed me when I told him, because he kept going on this like anti-Marx thing. And I was like, you don't know what Marxism is. He didn't say that. That's not what he said. He's never look for an instance where Marx defended like the state. He didn't. He saw this revolution as a transition period. He didn't, all this stuff. The state as a transition period to the ideal setup that he wanted, right? Or advocated for. Anyway, so these guys, it's like a funnel over there. So all opposition is swallowed up whole by United States corporations, whether it be Fox News. And Fox has a very shady history when it comes to the internet. I've done videos on that. Remember how I talked about The Simpsons? I might actually revisit that one. But again, in the lead up to, there's all this stuff that happened that I was there and they're leaving stuff out, which was basically this, and it's very hard to see because it's been memory holed, right? A lot of this stuff, and this is where I get to what is the DMCA. And DMCA is something that has been used and abused, copyright strikes, takedown notices. It has been used aggressively to take down opposition. It has been used to aggressively take down anyone who might disrupt in the industry, like any potential competitors. The record labels use it to go to war with Spotify. They use it to go to war with libraries. They use it to go to war with anyone who wants to share their stuff. They use it to enforce, again, people who are using it for fair use but don't have the resources to go to court. Now, this is a problem. This is the problem with when people say something is against the law or to go to court. Okay. So here you go. If you ever get into a dispute with somebody and they threaten legal action, you go, all right then, see you there, okay? Call their bluff, because most people can't afford to go to court, okay? This is business advice. I had somebody, I know I'm digressing, but again, it's related. But I think 3 or 4 years into my business, so that was quite early. And you learn a lot of lessons, okay? I wasn't trained. I didn't have any role models to look up to. I just figured it out along the way. But one thing I learned about sort of legal disputes or whatever in business was that there's people who know that you won't get anywhere and that it's more expensive to pursue, small claims. So like small claims, most people can't pursue small claims because the debt collectors and stuff are expensive. They only make money. The only way you can make money is by selling it to a debt collector for a fraction of a percent, but then they charge, first of all, you lose what's in the bill, but you also have to pay a fee, and usually it's on retainer. So it's really only big companies that can say pursue small claims unless you really want to go in and do this stuff. And most people are so busy, they go, it's not worth my fucking while to do this. Okay. But there's people who know that. So I had this guy, his last name was Cockfield. So it's fucking cockhead. Anyway, so I did some work for him. It was $1,300 worth of work. And he said, I'm not paying. You won't pursue it. And that's that. And he was right. I couldn't be asked pursuing it. He's like, you won't win. You can't pursue it. And he just knew that it's more expensive to pursue a small claim than it is to actually. This is related, by the way. But it's more expensive. And he knew that. And I learned that. And I folded. And I wish I hadn't. I wish I'd called his bluff because, but he's one of those people that knew that he would just say, okay, well, take me to court then. And I was like, nah, fuck it. And he tried his luck. And people have done that. And since then I call people's bluff. And I've said, all right, well, see you in court. You won't win. And I make sure that I document. And that's why I've said to I always with your contracts, everything in all of your dealings, okay, always, anything you write down, anything, always write as if it's going to be in court or on the front page of a paper. Or, and that's where Twitter, Twitter's like that. It's like always write as though it's going to be subpoenaed in court as a document, especially in business dealings. But anyway, that's a side point. But this is with the DMCA, this is how it's linked to the shifty business that is being done by these major labels, movie studios, big tech software companies. And this is one area where, despite, if you're critical of Google and Facebook, they're actually been on the front line of fighting against this stuff. So Google Google have their own flaws, but on this thing, they've been working on, they actually make it so that every takedown notice is transparent, and you can see if you see something like, actually the most recent one, if you Google download YouTube videos, because I often, just for my streams, because it's so hard to play a fucking YouTube video using OBS, you just download it to play and it's just easier. But they're taking down those where you can download YouTube video downloaders. Right. So if you Google that, there's a thing. It's got these takedown notice based, on the DMCA, right? So the DMCA can write to Google or write to Facebook and have things taken down. That's basically what it is, based on copyright. Okay, abuse of copyright. Now, so what happened? So I know, again, be patient. The Lyrica makes me waffle more than usual. Sorry about that. It also seems to make me apologise for waffling more than usual, so here we are. Okay, so what was I saying? Oh yeah, so the DMCA is a. I'm not going to bore you with the details. Okay, so to answer Judith's question, so the DMCA was passed in 1998 and after immense pressure from the record labels at the time, Big Five, RIAA. So it was Universal Music. So Universal Music Group was one of the first major record labels to sue over MP3. So they sued MP3.com. Okay, so there's a lot of legal pressure mounting. Oh, that's right. I was talking about The Simpsons. So I talked about sorry about this. So because it's significant, because this war on the internet is it's not just like, oh, this is the act and this is the law and you're on your and the letter of the law. Like, this is why, like, internet fucking lawyers are annoying, because they just don't understand. They're not professional pretend lawyers. They're really, because again, cyber law. I'm actually decided that after I finish my grad dip psych, I'm going to do a grad dip in digital law, because that didn't exist when I was doing my LLB, but now my university has that. So I'm going to actually do that. And I have the option of then qualifying as a psychologist or as a lawyer, depending on which one I want to pursue. But I want to learn both, but it's a digital law specific course. So I'm now motivated to finish the psych so I can get to the law. And it's like, I want to finish both. But anyway, so that's cool. Anyway. So, what was I saying? So the history with The Simpsons, right? So this was fan shit. So this is why I've talked about the Frinkiac.com before with The Simpsons gifs and The Simpsons, that is an immense victory, okay, for the internet at large. Also makes me wonder, what the fuck? Why is it there? Because Fox hates the internet and they enforce that shit. But you don't, until you understand, until you were there and you were a fan and you did fan websites, okay? And they had Simpsons fan websites like in the thousands, and Fox picked on every single one of them. Disney went after every single one of them. There's a famous case in copyright law with Disney suing a childcare centre for a painting of Mickey Mouse on their wall. That's the kind of shit that they've been getting up to since the beginning, okay? And the problem is that what they've been doing, and I said this yesterday, as someone who creates stuff and writes stuff and designs stuff and, all that stuff, I've had my shit stolen so many times, okay? Especially when I was doing Flash animations, people would just take it and whatever. And that's why I've always been majorly in fan of sort of open source. And I don't like this idea, and it's a whole other thing what happened to WordPress, but, I'll talk about that another time. But, the thing about the internet that has always existed is that it should be free, it should be share and share alike, and if you are generous, that generosity will come back to you, okay, in kind. So if you're an artist and you create something that is good and of value and people like it, people will generally support you. They'll give you money. That is something that is just a fact of the internet. But another fact of the internet is that there's going to be a portion of the people who just take it and leeches, and they'll just download it and they won't do anything. The reason why you pay $130 a month for fucking 10 different subscriptions is not because of innovation. It is because of the war because of, like in Australia, it's because of everyone wanting to own their slice and exploit the artists. None of them get paid from streaming. Like Netflix, I think, are one of the best, but Spotify doesn't look after the artists, but no more than the record labels do. And the thing that shits me, and this is the thing about this campaign where they keep using this argument that the people who create it should get paid, and they use that story as a bullshit argument to enforce corporate domination of the internet and their ability to just take down arbitrarily whatever the fuck they want, even if it's fair use, because they will do what that guy did and say, well, are you going to sue us? Are you going to go up against our corporate lawyers? No one is. Over a 15-second clip, no, you'll just comply and take it down, and you have no recourse. Okay? I hope that eventually, maybe I might initiate it. There's a class action against these companies for copyright strikes for fair use. It would be good if this is why I'm pro YouTubers and content creators organising into unions. The Australian Journalist Union here, the MEAA, Media and Entertainment Arts Alliance, they've actually created a freelancers union just for freelancers to lobby for, because again, this is one of those things where, having worked with big companies, literally, I have a contract and I go, here's my contract. And they go, here's our contract. And they go, replace it with ours and then you can have the job. Our payment terms are 90 days. We're going to starve you out. But what we want is for you to deliver the service ahead of time. So, and then you're the one that has to absorb the cost. You're the one that has to pay people. And this stuff happens all the time where, you get a big client and you need to have the money. And who can do that? Rich people, rich kids, rich freelancers, people who have, line of credit, people who, it's really, really hard on there's this whole system of, again, you can put class analysis. It's very hard. They sold us this dream of being a freelancer who had access to the internet. And this is the story. And this is, what I talk about in the book, the bait and switch, because I started my business with this idea that with just with $400 computer and my brain, I could make a living and I could work from home and I could design my own life and I could design and take control. That's the best way to be a socialist, is to leverage that internet, the freedom that we had briefly on the internet to create content and build a business and raise our kids. And, as much as I talk, I actually was thinking about that the other day because, my kids have issues about, how much I worked, right? And how I put work first. They don't see that you're trying to survive, and that they don't see this other thing where you're just constantly, when you start with $400, like they like to mythologize this. So if I was actually, people love that story, the porn, okay, of my struggle, which was, I had no money. I was on bed rest with my son, pregnant. I was on maternity. Then I was going to, I was doing 4-month contracts, 5-month contracts that would be renewed 4 weeks at a time because I was pregnant. So when I was put on bed rest, I had no money, and all I could do was use my brain and use my computer, and I could sit and I could make a few bucks doing stuff that I loved. Okay. And I could sell something. I could always sell something. That's been my frustration with the last, 5 years, is that I have always been able to make money by hustling and doing something with the power of my brain and an internet connection. That's something that I can always do. And that was the story we were sold. And the DMCA links to this is what they're using these stories. They use these stories about how you can, I am that story. I did that. Okay, from Perth, Western Australia, stuck on bed rest, unwell, losing job on short-term contracts. I took control of my life with the power of the internet and a computer, and I had a worldwide client base of famous people, rock stars, businesses. I went from that to enterprise, and all of that with no fucking resources. Okay, I am that story. And I'm still that story. If I actually just decided to delete all of the things that I'd said the last 3 years or whatever, I could just go back to enterprise work and it would be fine. Okay, I wouldn't care. Anyway, I'm saying I could even consult now. I just I choose not to, because I like to do other things. I want to write my book and I want to get this course going because I know all of this stuff. Okay. I know how to sell. I've done, I can sell like a motherfucker. Okay. I just don't know what I'm selling at the moment. That's the problem. The problem is not that I can't, not my sales skills, is that I don't know what the fuck I'm selling. Anyway. So, anyway, I'm selling like ideas and I'm selling sanity. And that's the problem, is that people don't seek sanity out. It's just like, fucking hell. Anyway, how do you sell? And when the people that I'm competing with are selling easy answers that are comfortable and don't challenge people and don't make them feel like they don't know what they're talking about or that they might have some learning to do, it's very difficult. But the story we were sold on the internet was that story. That creators, if we put content on the internet, okay, that we could make a living, okay, or that we, we'd find our true fans, the true fans principle. I've talked about that before, which is that if you find your 1,000 true fans, okay, that's not many, it's a numbers game. Find 1,000 people, you will make a very good living. And on the internet, it's probably more like 100 now, okay? Could even be 50, depending on how, that's what Patreon's built on, this idea of finding the true fans who will give you money and you can make a living. Okay, that's why I get annoyed with the double dipping, because it's like, no, it's not a supplement to your other income. It was meant to replace the advertising model. So if you're reading ads on your Patreon, you can go fuck yourself. That wasn't the deal. Again, I sit there and it's like, that was not the deal. I'm here. We've been colonized, and stop telling us that that's how it is, because you Americans are just, there's never enough. There's never enough money. There's never enough. Some people just want enough to live, and socialists believe in enough, not more. Okay? The problem is that capitalism is about more all the time. The accumulation of capital, you may have heard of it. Okay? It accumulates. It absorbs everything around it, and it leaves a whole bunch of people with not enough and a whole bunch of other people getting more. And I'm all about enough for everybody. That's all that socialism is making sure that everyone has enough, so that they can create and they can share, and they're free to share with each other. That without corporations determining that that's copyright material, and that's why they fight the dissent. That's why they fight all this shit tooth and nail, because to be open and free and sharing on the internet, that makes us free, and that makes them redundant. And that's been the fight that the record labels have been, and movie studios and all those people, because they're the people that front the money for production, and it's the same kind of contract as that thing where I said those 90-day terms, and you've got to pay subcontractors in the meantime, and you require capital to earn money. There's that initial startup seat, that cost, and they may or may not pay you on time, and you've got to chase for every cent, and they'll haggle you for a discount. And the one thing I do is that if you don't pay your bills on time, I fire you. Okay, unless there's an agreement in place or something like that where I benefit in some way, because the one thing that people shouldn't do is not pay on time. Okay, it's disrespectful and rude. But anyway, but the way that these corporations have set themselves up, and the way that this whole system is set up to exploit artists, is that they're using our story, they're using our hustle stories, they're using the fact that a lot of us started on $400 computers and an internet connection and built design careers out of it and learned as we went, and all of that sort of stuff. They hijack that story and use it to guilt users into thinking that this is what we want as creators. Like they did this with the musicians with Napster. There was a whole bunch of musicians that were like, no, I'm pro-piracy because it expands my audience and I might find some true fans out of it. Share and share alike. Share it. All I want, because there's going to be people who love me and buy my merch or buy tickets to my shows. And I was saying this early on, your songs are now your business card for other things. If you provide an experience for your fans and you are loyal with your fans and you connect with your fans, they will buy anything. I remember having a conversation with an artist, and I said, like your fans, you don't understand. They will, because didn't get the idea of, Ben Folds got this early, this idea of putting sort of imperfect demos out or as an EP, or putting things out on, unfinished stuff out as an EP and selling it. But I was trying to say, like, fans will buy anything. The reason why bootlegs get shared so much is because they're thirsty for everything. Okay. If you encourage that and you go direct and you sell that, then you will succeed. You will have no problem. And that was the thing where piracy, being pro-piracy, because I've been pro-piracy. There's a few like musicians that saw the marketing benefit of releasing stuff. Actually, funny thing Ben Folds did was he released a fake album and it went on it was fucking hilarious. Alternative songs. He leaked a fake alternative album. It's fucking amazing. It's hilarious. But if you learned how to use that, then, you were doing better than others, right? And this is well before Patreon. This was, early 2000s. But actually, no, what was it? 2004, 2005. So, this was still, that still counts as old school internet at this point. With the DMCA, okay, so we've got to talk about the Internet Archive. So, under the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, there's an exemption. Okay, Section 512. Hang on, let me check. I might even share this. Let me share the screen. I'll put it in reader mode and then I'll share. Hang on. Let's see. This is from the Internet Archive. Let me just give me 1 second. Where's my screen? Okay. 1 sec. Okay, I'm bringing it up in a second. Okay. So this is actually the article I believe that Judith was referring to. Okay, so let me just, and then I'll move over a bit so that, Okay, so here we go. So this is the article that now, if my computer shits itself because of screen sharing, I apologize. I will come back, okay? So, where are we? Let me just make it a little bigger because it seems to be a little small. Okay, so Save Our Safe Harbor continued. So this is something that they've been having to fight for a very long time. Okay, the Internet Archive sits as an exemption because it is a library. It's an online library. So you might think of like the Wayback Machine, or I actually use the example of archive.is. There's all these archiving websites that exist as libraries that are under attack. They're under constant attack because of copyright issues. Okay, now that is kind of a valid. There's grey areas here. Under the law, this is, I think. Anyway, so as many of our readers will know, Section 512 of the DMCA is the 1998 law that established the notice and takedown system that protects online platforms of all kinds, including libraries, archives, and other non-profits, from liability for the copyright infringement of others. Okay, so like the Wayback Machine and the Archive, they actually, they have like books on there. You can bypass paywalls because it's news. If it's on a major news website, technically it's considered public record, public interest, so it's being archived. You can access that, right? That's whatever. That's what libraries do, is they archive media. But the problem is, because media is trying to paywall everything, that you can see where that conflict might be. But again, there's that the vast majority of, but also if they didn't have 1,000 ads on there, and like I said, the Independent make, $17,000 for one article on Joe Rogan, okay? For the 1% or 2% of people that are going to bypass a paywall to read it, it's silly, right? But they still enforce this because they ultimately just want to be able to abuse the system, right? And the ability to take down the Wayback Machine, so the Wayback Machine is, I don't know, I'm sure everyone knows what the Wayback Machine is, surely. But if you don't, it's basically where you can see old versions of websites, right? So, you can go back and see, like, many a time I've rescued a website where I've had to do a manual copy and paste onto a new website because of the archive. It's been very useful over the years to try and find old content, old blogs. It's fun to go back and look at my old websites, that sort of stuff. It sort of exists there in as like a document of history. But you can see how for those corporate interests who have clearly got issues with memory holding, and I'll talk about the CIA. Oh, that's right. When I was talking about, hang on, give me one second. Let me turn this off and talk for a second. I was talking last night. I was like the CIA. People forget. It's like, it's amazing. It's like, okay, so Operation Paperclip didn't happen at the time, but then it came out that it happened. MK Ultra didn't happen at the time, then it came out, it happened. All these other things didn't come out until they happened, and all these things. And then when we turn around and go, oh yeah, it's amazing how people are just like, oh no, I believe them this time. We're not doing it this time. That's what you always say. So why the fuck should I believe you now? And people go, oh yeah, no. The thing that's like amazed me is how many people will actually see all of this evidence in front of them, okay, and still just go along with like authority and go, yeah, no, they're telling the truth. They must be telling the truth. Not like those other times where they hid everything and stuff. And it doesn't matter. It's just that, again, psychology, I know what that is. It's normalcy bias at work, right? That's going to happen. But it's amazing. Like, how do you do this? Oh, anyway, how do you persuade people with all this stuff? It's just crazy. Anyway, so let's go back to the article. So, where are we? So it includes online platforms of all kinds, including libraries, here we go, archives and other non-profits from liability there we go. So while the law is not perfect, the safe harbour provided by the DMCA has been important in allowing libraries, non-profits and other smaller participants to harness the power of the internet and play a meaningful role in the online information ecosystem. So again, there's a lot of history here, okay, which is just this constant war on minor copyright infringements, okay, and these exemptions, and like the fact that they're going after, again, if it was just copyright, it would be fine, but it is actually an attempt to memory hole a lot of stuff, like those, this stuff with the Washington Post that's been going on, or all of this sort of, Taylor Lorenz, like all this defamation that's going on, all of the advocating for death threats against women. Like, if this stuff all comes out, they have misused the DMCA to take down stuff from the Internet Archive, so people can't even show that it happened. It's memory holding stuff, like that thing with The Simpsons where they went after the fans' side. I remember when I was trying to Google about it, and the only thing I could find was one of the old websites where they post about it. None of the media articles were live. Nothing was there. They memory hold the whole fucking thing where they went after fans. So there's all of these things where once you go and take it down from the Internet Archive, which is what the Fox did, they took down fan websites. But then obviously when you go to look at the Internet Archive, they took it down from there as well. Okay, this is something that they use copyright to justify all of this stuff. Having one Homer Simpson gif on your website means that you are, if I, like in the 90s, if I had showed that clip, okay, on dial-up somehow in Magic Land, I would have, received a cease and desist and probably been taken to court by Fox, okay? That's what happened. But what that does is that politically, there's all of this stuff. There's all of this stuff that has happened in the last few years where we've all been under attack, we've been lied to, we've been misled, and now I'm seeing this attempt to roll back everything and pretend it never happened. And this pattern of cancellations and sort of taking down channels and then removing them from the archive, this is why the archive has to be, that final frontier, or that final sort of boss fight in this fight, because, much like Julian Assange is for journalism, these things are indicative of us losing what we were promised, and it now becoming just a corporate fucking hellscape where all of these stories about artists having to make money is been co-opted by corporations, where they can just exploit artists and steal their shit and then tell everyone else not to steal their shit. And if the artists, did you know that even if you get direct permission from a creator to use their music, the YouTube platform will still copyright strike you. Okay, now again, the label then, it goes to the label. It doesn't go to the artist, it goes to the label. So even if you directly know an artist who is signed to a record label and you play their music, okay, or I've seen this, even if during the pandemic they were doing their own songs on their own streams, they were getting copyright infringements and stuff that was going to the label. Not them. They couldn't approve their own shit, even if they wrote the music. This is the problem. This is the problem with the DMCA. And also there's this new act. It's SMART, S-M-A-R-T. Fucking hell, can we just, these Orwellian fucking names, which is basically, around the automation and enforcing these automated systems to detect copyright infringement. And they abuse this shit. Also, people like Dave Rubin, Tim Pool, but people like that, if you critique them on YouTube, and play a clip of them, they can actually take it down. They can get your clip taken, your stuff taken down. And that's what the right do a lot, okay? Especially, people. Anyway, I realised that I cut off my face there. Okay, so anyway, you get the point. So the archive is really important because it's a record of what happens. It's a record of what was said on the internet, okay? I exist in cyberspace forever with all of the versions that I ever wrote. And that's great. That's a good thing because it gives me context, okay? Even if at the time I thought I should have deleted it or whatever, it still exists in the archive because it's good. That's a good thing because it's a record of what happened, and historians, 100 years from now will be able to go through and see what happened, not this fucking rewritten thing that's coming from corporate America like they did with Nazi Germany and rewrote what fascism is, rewrote what Marxism is, rewrote all of this stuff, had a 100-year campaign to rewrite history in favor of the United States and then cancel anybody or delete anybody. You see how sinister this stuff is using copyright. Okay, we own this. You play a clip, you critique it, you use it. Like I was actually thinking of crowdfunding a project where I take cynical theories, right? And I just line by line comment on it. And I just release that as a book with notes. But I can't because they'll use copywriting. That's the copyright argument. Critique, that's an extreme version. But you know what I'm saying? Like copyright, because there's fair use, it's the Southern Baptist funded $1 million lawyers versus little old me who can't afford fucking anything. And that's how it works. You can't do anything. Little guys cannot protect themselves and little guys cannot do any critique. Okay. And that's, but then there's no record of it either because they're taking it down from the archive as well. You see how important this stuff is. So I know I've done half my face again. Anyway, whatever. Still setting stuff up. So unfortunately, Section 512 has been under attack for some time. In addition to various legislative proposals, the United States Copyright Office has repeatedly been asked to conduct work on Section 512 that could threaten the safe harbor status of libraries and non-profits and the communities of their patrons and users. In 2016, for instance, Internet Archive submitted comments to the Copyright Office's first large Section 512 study, as outlined in a blog post, blah, blah, blah. We noted the special importance of the DMCA to libraries and other non-profit organisations which rely in substantial part on volunteer communities and which are unlikely to be able to bring to bear the sorts of resources available to larger commercial entities. So this is what we're up against, okay? We are constantly up against fucking massive corporations and they need to fuck off. They need to get the fuck off. Do you want the internet to be LinkedIn all day, every day? Because that's what we're heading towards, okay? LinkedIn actually, side point, LinkedIn's cracking me up at the moment because all the corporate fuckheads are arguing about them introducing a laugh react because, it was a joke that there's no laugh react on LinkedIn because there's no laughter at work. You're at work. It's not professional to laugh at things and all the people who do that get laughed at a lot, right? So then they're having a conniption over the introduction of the fucking laugh react. And so LinkedIn has just been discussing the pros and cons of a laugh react. And it's like, oh my God, could you imagine if the whole internet was like that fucking thing? My God. Okay, anyway, but that's what they're looking for. Sanitized, completely owned, every aspect of every time that artists try to own their shit, these guys use copyright and they use these guilt trips. And if the guilt trips don't work, then they criminalize it and threaten you with the FBI. And they threaten you in court and they use threats. And if you don't do that and you don't comply, then they will fucking do something. And you have a large platform and you go, okay, no, I do not accept this. They'll figure out ways to cancel you. Do you see how this works? You see how it all works and how it all fits together. And then why people like me sound like batshit people, because they're making fucking really cool shows that fictionalize MK Ultra so that I look like I'm making shit up like it's on Netflix. Nah, it happened. Anyway, so in 2020, the Copyright Office kept working towards Section 512 reform, and the internet urged the Copyright Office to consider how changes. So they are constantly under attack. They're constantly having to do this work. They're constantly having to submit to the Copyright Office, all these changes. There's a new act, that Smart Act around automation, where it basically what they do is that same court thing. Common move in like a lawsuit is that they will just flood you with so much work that you can't fucking do it. They just flood you with paperwork and they make it so expensive, so onerous, so time consuming that you don't have the resources to fight them. That's the corporate lawyer move, is to make sure that, they will just dump everything on you so that you can't fight. You're overwhelmed with fucking everything because you don't, and in digital particularly, because there's not a lot of digital, again, there's not a lot of lawyers who are specialised in digital. It's a new thing. Again, that's why I should have done my fucking law degree. I'd be finished by now. But anyway, side point. I'm doing it soon. I'll do it after this one. But it's just like, digital law is emerging. It's emerging. But these guys have the upper hand because they've been doing this war for nearly 20 years now. They've been systematically chipping away and lobbying using the guilt trip of artists getting paid. Artists don't get paid under record labels. Artists don't get paid like anything in TV shows. You get if you are one of the very chosen few whose show gets into syndication or whatever, then you're sitting pretty. But for the most part, most actors and stuff, they don't get paid very much. They don't get ongoing royalties unless you've got a good manager or agent. You don't get paid. Okay, you don't get paid for ongoing shit. And they expect that, and again, having worked with the entertainment industry, big parts of the entertainment industry exploit fans as well, and they expect people to work for free just for the love of it. And I used to love it, actually. Early in my career, I was getting paid in, concert tickets and guitars and, cool stuff, but eventually it turned into a business. So I had to just stop doing that and go corporate. Right? I loved working with artists and getting paid in free shit, and it was great. Getting comp tickets for everything, and it was fantastic. But at the end of the day, you still need to be paid, and you still need to make a living. And that's another thing pervasive in the entertainment industry, is the exploitation of that parasocial fan thing, the dangle. Oh yeah, I'll use you to do my fucking heavy lifting in my communities and stuff, but I'm not going to pay you. That's another thing that's a separate thing. But what these corporations do is exploit fan love. They exploit that thing that is the scaffolding of the internet, which is fan love and, fan art and cover songs and tabs and, like in the movie industry, like commentary, clips, reviews, talking about it. All that stuff is under threat because these guys won't let you play a fucking clip. And the auto detector, what's it called? Fucking the YouTube tool, I can't remember. My brain's whatever. But that automated YouTube tool will just pick it up because that's what they've said. And it doesn't matter if it's fair use. And if you want to argue fair use, you've got to take fucking the RIAA to court, or you've got to take these guys, movie studio to court. It's not between you and the artist. Even if you've negotiated between you and the artist is fucked too. The artist has signed a billion-year Scientology contract, sometimes literally, and they have no rights either. They don't get any money. They get their cents per fucking million royalties as well, and they're using that. And it's like, oh, don't you want artists to be paid? Record labels suing Spotify, pretending that they fucking care about artists. They don't. They care about control and profits. And the problem with this media conglomerate, these media conglomerates, is the interests, okay? And it's not about a conspiracy. It's not like they're going, we're going to send. The interests are, this is the base of capitalism. Here we go. I'm going to use the Marxist word, base. Okay, you got the base and the superstructure, the base of capitalism, okay? When capitalism and profit is the base of everything that you do, okay, this is what happens. What was my argument? Oh yeah, the interests. Okay, so it's just interests. So when the motive is profit, when the motive is exploitation, when the motive is profit and the model is based on exploitation, that's going to happen. And they've got the media. I fucking miss my words. I'm talking about the media conglomerate. So, Universal Music Group is owned by a bigger, group. Who fucking? I think Universal's its own. But you've got, Time Warner. You've got, Warner's a massive conglomerate, and they own media, and they own the movie studios, they own TV, but they also own journalism, they also own TV stations, they own everything, and they will use copyright to memory hole what is inconvenient to their interests of, like this narrative formation that you're seeing here is just business interests at work. It's nothing, the people who work in these areas, I've worked with them, they have no politics. Okay, most people don't know politics. They have interests, okay, and you watch this stuff with people like Taylor Lorenz at the Washington Post, okay? She's not a left wing. She's got content. They're all focused on everything being content that sells and the numbers, and like there is no politics there. It's all just commercial interest, and I think that's the thing that people don't. Well, the US right have manufactured this narrative that somehow fucking Washington Post is left wing. It's bullshit. She's just a classic, again, a case study in somebody who exploits the system for her own benefit and her own fame. It's like capitalism promotes psychopathy. Capitalism promotes the worst human behaviors, which is those that are willing to exploit people the most, okay, are going to float to the top. Whereas under a socialist system, those who, help each other out more are, again, it's just more like you own your labor. Like the best way to be a socialist in this current system is to be a freelancer and choose who you work for, set your own rates. And yeah, you got to deal with capitalist fuckheads who will take advantage. I've been taken advantage of all the time. But the reason why I'm self-employed and why I'm a freelancer is because I'm a socialist and I want to own my own labor and I keep my profits. Okay. Now that's changed because now in order to, the whole model has changed. I'm not going to tell anybody that they can, like this is something that's happening with kids now where they're told like that if they start a YouTube channel that they can succeed. And to an extent that's true. Like my son streams and he does clips and stuff and he's doing okay. He's doing pretty well. And TikTok is just the sort of final manifestation of a never-ending idol audition for fame and money and clicks and really is the kind of the end game of corporate content creation. You become a slave to content. See, and content is not art. I've got another thing about that. Okay, content is consumable for others. Art is something that comes from within that you share willingly and openly to connect and it creates a different kind of intangible value. It's not just a monetary value, there's a spiritual value in art that doesn't exist in content. Content is something that is just produced for commercial benefit. And everyone is doing content. No one, very few people are doing sort of art. And if you are doing art, you won't succeed. Okay. And unfortunately, the thing that comes with producing content that keeps these guys happy so that you don't get a copyright notice is that you're a slave to them. You are at their mercy. And also, you see what happens. The incentive is to lie. The incentive is to demonize others. And I'm demonizing content creators. I'm saying, again, you've got to stereotype. It's not see, the thing is we're stuck in a system where we've got to be, I understand how this system works, which is that you've got to be a certain way in order to even be heard or succeed or live. Capitalism brings out just the worst in all of us. And it steals our stories and rewrites history. And this is the thing about the DMCA and this history being rewritten, history being memory hold, all of these, psychologists, Marxist psychologists being ignored, who cannot replicate things like personality disorders outside of America and capitalist systems. You can't look at things like personality disorders and all that stuff without looking at the structures that we exist within, right? And if you exist in a socialist economy, you can't really replicate a lot of these problems, right? Or they're not problems at all. It's just, we help each other out. Like ADHD, I believe, it's something that I live with, but it's only something I live with under a certain system, okay? And this is where we have to get back to that. It's always back to capital and back to exploitation, and how this system doesn't work for anything but the worst people, the most dishonest people, and those who have already inherited money or already have capital or are willing to say whatever the fuck capital wants them to say. And that's precarious. It's dangerous when this is the internet that we were promised, where we could say what we want and we could make a living on our own terms and own our own labor and do those and make friends with who we want and connect with who we want. That's not happening anymore. And demonizing the dark web as though that's, it's not. Honestly, more and more I'm thinking that this NFT thing, making it into being, it was yet another sophisticated attempt to undermine the tech, because NFT tech was one of those things where people were able to own a piece of what they produce and cut the labels out. It's another thing. It's just like it's just so fucking predictable how this all works, right? But again, I don't know who's behind it, but there's some funny sites actually. Look it up. There's some funny because it's all transparent, you can see the DMCA takedown notices, okay? So you see, a lot of them they get thousands and thousands and thousands of false, actually probably even hundreds of thousands of takedown notices that are false. There's a funny one where YouTube wrote to Google to take down a thing. And it was well, we are Google. This is one of the things where Google's on side with us, the users. Google are fighting against, antitrust, threats of antitrust and all that stuff. And that's the problem with American politics in general, and this corporatization of everything, right? And this is the thing you need to pay attention to, is that they threaten antitrust and breaking up Google and all these stuff. They're under threat too. And look, they've got their problems. But if I had to choose between the US government and Facebook and Google or even Twitter, okay, I'd choose tech. Okay, if I had to choose, okay, I don't want to choose. I think that we should reform the system so that the oligarchy, kleptocracy that is the United States government isn't threatening big tech with antitrust to make them comply with things that they wouldn't ordinarily comply with. They're over a barrel. They're over a barrel. They really are. I think most people in tech are good faith. They've just been led astray. I mean, obviously, again, system rewards certain behaviors, and Twitter, fuck me, that seems to reward the worst ones. Okay. There's a lot of shit floating in that organization, but that's because it's, I think it's largely, honestly, it feels like a weird pyramid scheme where there's actually there's no operational staff. I don't think there's actually as many operational staff as and it's mostly just unmanned. That's what I think it is. They're just unmanned. They're not making any money. They can't afford the employees. So they have the employees at the top, the engineers and stuff and people, but I don't think that they're actually manned in any meaningful way. I think it's actually just a shell company at this, compared to the others. Okay. Anyway, so it's where are we? Oh yeah, so to answer Judith's question, that's why it's such a big question to say, okay, what is this? Why is the Internet Archive, fighting with WikiLeaks? You can see how these things are related to each other, which is that this is the DMCA is being used to silence, censor frivolously. Okay, but you'll see that there's also CD Underground with the DMCA is really interesting, because you'll see that there's people who there's this whole anti-APK campaign. So APK is the file extension for downloading Android apps directly rather than through the store. So anyone who has an APK, so that's basically like being able to, on your computer, you just download the app and install it as its own file, standalone file, without using the App Store. Okay. That's the .apk is something that exists on Android phones to do that, right? It's harder to do on iPhone. You've need dev tools, but you can still do it on iPhone. But there's someone who's really anti-APK, who's trying to declare war on independent developers, and they're putting DMCA scam, lie DMCA takedown requests to all of these web hosts and websites and everything that where anyone has an app to download. It's really bizarre. I didn't even think of it. There's this massive campaign, and it's they're just frivolous. So they're just flooded. Again, Google are just overwhelmed and flooded with DMCA takedown notices, and they have so many resources you'd be amazed how many resources goes into dealing with this stuff and why they have to have AI. And that's why AI has to be somewhat trusted, because humans just can't do it. I mean, you could have more humans, yes, but at the same time, even if every human on earth was working in moderation and these things, you still wouldn't have enough. You'd still have to automate large portions of it. This is the volume that we're talking about. But these guys, it's obvious that these corporations obviously have bot armies that they can sort of, direct wherever they want to achieve whatever they want. That's pretty clear at this point. If you don't think that they don't have these sort of shadow dark agencies that are doing this work for them to persuade, and lobby and campaign journalists, get journalists writing about things, it's not just, again, this idea of branded content. It's all branded content. It's all content. There's no ideology. It's all branding, and it's all branded content. And even if it's not directly paid for, okay, it's influenced by bots or by, backroom conversations, or making sure that certain things get left out of the media and some things get promoted. It's all about the economic interests, and it's all about the fact that we are all severely overwhelmed in terms of resources. Like anybody who, like the EFA or the digital rights people, or like Internet Archive or the Wikimedia Foundation. I mean, they kind of help, Google helps a lot. The tech companies actually help quite a lot. They're on side with a lot of this stuff, okay? Facebook is known for showing up with 10 fucking corporate lawyers to everything, but, that's Facebook. I do that shit. But, for the most part, Google is on the good side, on balance with this issue, okay? They try their best under immense pressure, because if your Congress is bought and sold by the most powerful, the Congress of the most powerful nation in the world is bought and sold and able to make a phone call, okay, and they're all fucking corrupt, they can just go, well, threaten them with antitrust, threaten to break them up. They'll do it. And Google go, yeah, okay, all right, we'll give you this. If you leave us alone on this, we'll give you this. If you leave us alone on this, we'll give you this. It's always that sort of quid pro quo relationship. But the problem is that those who actually see it and want to fight it and stop the worst parts of this, which is memory holding whatever the fuck you don't like, including journalists' articles. Imagine if, all of this stuff where Taylor Lorenz, I'm just using her as an example because she's a good case study in just, I want to write a book called Breaking News and how Twitter broke news, but how the internet broke news. But it's, she's a good case study in what if all of her stuff, the stuff that she said over the years, was just she's got the corporation on her side. If they have the power to just delete everything, they can issue a takedown under copyright and say, no, that's out. We own that, take it down. We own that, take it down. Laws that were intended to protect things like revenge porn or, doxing or the misuse of information are now abused by these massive corporations who will say, okay, take that down. And also Internet Archive, I want you to take it down. It never existed. It never happened. And unfortunately, this is what I'm actually seeing. I see it with Wikipedia too sometimes. Again, because I was there. I was on the internet. I saw what happened, and I saw that there was a corporate takeover of the internet, and that's gradually being rewritten. They've stolen the stories. They're saying that, they're selling this bullshit lie that influencers and all of this stuff hasn't been, it started organically, and now you cannot become a famous YouTuber. You cannot become an influencer. You cannot be anything. You won't even be approached by Substack to write nothing unless you are on the side of some serious money on any side of either side. Okay, there is nobody who is independent that will be, truly independent, because you watch them, they drift. They're drifting. There's corporate interest in nudging someone like Glenn Greenwald to the right. There's corporate interest in nudging Jimmy Dore to the right. There's interest in nudging people in that direction. I'm not stripping them of their agency. I'm saying that there's this whole campaign system of bots, and I've talked about that audience capture before. There's that two-way radicalization street that no one is addressing, and that's why I've gone from, I was able to just go viral without even trying, and if I tried, I would consult on that, okay, to being completely fucking ignored and not being able to, it changed, it shifted for me, and that's why I say, well, something's different, and it's obviously not organic, because I know organic. I know how organic works, and I also know that, I'm deeply worried that things are going to be removed at the request of corporations that aren't in their interests. Like when Courtney Love sort of, talked about True Fans' principle against the record label. She wrote a famous blog post, a big one. What if they remove all of that? What if they remove the story about, what if they, remove my columns about how we needed to take privacy seriously and about the Ashley Madison hack and those sorts of things? What if important things like WikiLeaks stuff and very important information gets taken down, which it is, and it's being attacked? How do we get the truth, and how do we get information, and how do we even expect people to believe us when we can't show anything? Every site, like when I talk about this, the CIA and using postmodernism and Marxism to implode the left, and there's documents there from France in the 80s and all that stuff. What if they make it so that every official source, any source that refers to it, doesn't look credible? What if, that's the risk that we've got here, which is when there's interests involved in history and the record, and I'm seeing it happen. I'm watching the history of the internet be wiped. This thing where the corporate takeover happened, and the social media where they're like, oh yeah, copyright. Everyone needs to make money. No, you want to make money. They've sold Facebook just gobbles up anything and gives you tools. It's like, okay, where's the art? We're all just creating content. Canva, business, repurposing content. What we are is icon factories. So designers, the way designers make money most of the time now is by selling, like this is what they did for the photographers, which is a lot of them make money selling stock photography. But they go through Getty, they go through iStock, owned by massive corporations. They're no longer a photographer being able to sell photography, because most people, the big companies and those things, they don't value bespoke photography. They just use. When I was with, when I did work with eBay, okay, they didn't have they had some photos, right? But basically, I just went I used stock, because eBay is such a big brand, and also because you're exempt from the editorial only. If you actually are a representative of the brand, you can use whatever has there. You can use it for commercial purposes, right? I know this is boring, but I'm just saying, like, they don't, we just paid for stock photography for eBay, who you'd think would have, a big bank of photos, but they didn't. Well, they had a big bank of American white faces. They didn't have a bank of, diverse faces. And because I was doing work with Southeast Asia, we needed some more diverse faces with eBay. And that's what I did. I bought stock. Okay. But that's happened across the board. Designers are being, we were replaced with, a lot of them are just designing icons. A lot of them are just designing elements and selling them on things like Envato or whatever. They're selling that stuff for mass production. Much like what's happened with farmers and the food system, with like McDonald's and the supply chain, all those things. Where I think dairy farmers is a good example, where they're at the mercy of the supermarkets. They can't just go and sell milk at the market anymore, because the law has made it so that they can't do it because it's not safe. And there's two major, like, large monopoly supermarkets that have all the milk, so they can negotiate it down. So farmers are barely breaking even, and they've become just a production a unit of production for this massive corporation. There's no love in it anymore. They're just producing. There's no, you get what I'm saying? So they're just producing raw materials without, and they don't get to dictate the show. They don't own their own labor anymore. And that's that sort of, like I said, that base of capitalism and exploitation. It's from the root, it fucks you, right? Whereas in a socialist state, you still need milk and you still have to trade milk, but it would be on your terms and you would set the price and supply. And funnily enough, supply and demand still works under socialism. Oh my God, this is the rewriting again of of America about what socialism is. It's like, it's not free shit. It's still a market. There's just less exploitation and people own their own labor and can negotiate fair rates and survive, and we look after each other. It's not fucking difficult, man. But they fight that shit tooth and nail, and people buy this idea that it's fucking free shit or big government. It's like, that's not the case. But anyway. But the DMCA is at the center of this, and that's why I'm explaining. That's why I took the time to sort of talk about the bigger stuff around the DMCA, because it is at the forefront of what's going on with this internet stuff, okay? What if, and this is, I mean, again, let's assume that I'm charitable towards things like Libs of TikTok, but Libs of TikTok could get in legal trouble. They can just take down that stuff. Let's say Libs of TikTok are doing commentary and exposing stuff rather than cyberbullying. Okay, let's assume that, let's put them in the case of journalists, okay? But that maybe that's an important thing. Maybe in the end it shows that they are exposing something that's quite important, which I think they are. They're not exposing what they think they're exposing. I think they're exposing a massive mental health problem, of which the symptoms are very clear, which is, this disordered society of, just anyway. But they're documenting something quite important, which is a phenomenon that happened in the last few years where people lost their minds. And so what we'd like to see is, it's another reason why I don't want them censored, is because there's things there on the record that with the benefit of hindsight and further research, which is what I'm doing as well, and what a lot of people are doing, that it may be, there's more evidence there, there's data there to show that people aren't doing so well. And for psychologists, that's important because it's good evidence. You get what I'm saying? It's documented. You can't. The thing about censorship is that it rewrites history, and I've always been conscious of the reason why I have always shared on the internet, because I always knew that I was nobody and that I would die nobody, and that I wouldn't have a legacy outside of, again, making sure that I had a voice, making sure that I wrote down what I wanted to say, and making sure that everything that I said was on my own terms and that it was on the record, and that if people had a problem with it, that's fine. But I have legacy in mind when I write. I don't write as if I have something to say now. I write as if I've got a story to tell to somebody after I'm gone, like my great grandkids or, whoever might have gone, I want to learn about this person. Okay. That's why I always write in that vein. So to memory hole these things and to take that away, this is why this is critical, because censorship erases the truth, but it also erases the people's stories and people's honest account of their stories. All of this self-censorship, not even you don't even have to censor. I demonetized my YouTube account. I stopped using certain things. I stopped talking about certain things in order to keep my account. So now I'm giving you a dishonest version of who I am and what I want to say. I've tried to swear less. I've been trying to swear less. I'm failing on Twitter so I can keep my account. Okay. What's interesting about Twitter is that, like, my husband works for a pretty powerful organization. They can't get in touch with Twitter either. No one can. I know people, like I said, at eBay, I know people, everyone in tech, I've got people who know people who know people. And I think Twitter doesn't exist. Twitter is unmanned, I think. Aside from those handful of people, I honestly think it's unmanned, and it's all just bots and pretend. Wouldn't surprise me, actually. Half their employees don't exist. Wouldn't be hard to pull off. Anyway, but side point. But the thing about, like, you know, they use these massive media corporations using copyright as a catch-all to censor everything, to censor journal, using this sort of, you know, bypassing paywalls or fair use, anything that would have been fair use before. Then you have, you know, if they complain, or again, putting you in the position where, well, what are you going to do? You're going to fight this. Okay, no, I won't do it then. I won't talk about it then. All right then. I wanted to play this song for my friends because I love this. I really want to, like, just have that as part of my experience, but I can't. So I avoid that, and you don't get a record of that either. And it's like, I want to do a listening party or a watching party. Can't do that. You know, and it's like, okay, well, that's good because it incentivizes people to create original content, but they're not creating original content. Like my theme song, I'm just using royalty-free fucking bullshit generic stuff because I don't have the resources. I can't compete with an agency who can create, or even like people like Tim Pool or anyone who's got that right-wing money or the cam girl money. You can't compete. I literally can do everything in every aspect of online digital production. I have the skill set. I know what things take. And I know, that's how I know that there's money in things. And that they outsource things, or that they might be using something like Fiverr where they do it, you know, quite cheap, but the quality is bad. So this is how you know something's funded well. You can't just, this is why I did this, was because I wanted to see, with someone who's got 25 years in digital, with all my production experience, all my graphics experience, all my VFX, all of that stuff. I know how to do stuff, but I also can't physically do it all. That's how I see that there's something off about all these people that spontaneously pop up out of their garage with production values and all that stuff, because I'm a highly sought after designer and I know what things take. And that's what I've sat here saying. I'm like, I know what this takes. You have to have some money. No one explodes online anymore organically because the algorithm is determining who gets promoted and who doesn't. And that requires money and it requires boosting in some way. And I've also noticed that when you try to be on, you know, when you're on these things or on, you know, you're a guest, if you don't fit within this particular worldview, like if you're not strictly gender critical, or you're not strictly this thing, or you do left-wing analysis, or you do analysis that isn't on brand, right? For these guys, they don't publish it. They put it on. And again, I'm open to the idea that maybe I'm a bad guest. That's okay. I get it. But at the same time, I don't think that's necessarily the case. I just think that when you are, the incentives are in place to bullshit, okay? And it's just been an interesting experiment because I just, funnily enough, I did this as to try and overcome video, and I also did it because I was curious about sort of this stuff, like what it took. But now I know what it costs. I know what it takes. And I know how hard it is. And I'm not saying, again, I didn't do a lot of the stuff. Like I didn't do clips and I don't do that sort of stuff, okay? I'm probably going to set up a clips channel. My son, I've hired my son as a producer and he's going to start editing some clips. So if you could timestamp anything that you think is a great clip, you'd be helping him out. It'd be great. He's my intern. But I know what it takes. I'm now training him in all the stuff, okay? He knows what it takes. We know what these things cost. I've run an agency. Okay, and that's what I find really fascinating is this sort of again, there was a book, I think was it in the 90s, about, it's called, it's like a McDonaldization theory. Disneyfication is another way of putting it in sociology. There's like a homogenization going on with everything under capitalism, including like the internet and including the creative industry even, where, you know, we're just assembling assets. We're not creating them. I don't create the icons anymore. I search for icons and find them in a library. You know, we don't go out and do photo shoots anymore. We don't really do video. Some do, but that's where you got to have that's the big buck agencies. You got to have the resources. Again, they're on 90-day payment terms, so they got to pay all the talent and all that stuff ahead of time. You got to have the capital. That's capitalism. You got to have the capital in order to succeed. The seed money, okay? It's not about skill or merit. It's about having initial capital, or being willing to pitch for said initial capital, which means you have to shut your fucking gob like me. I can't shut my gob, so I don't get the capital. Right? I know how this works. I know how pitching works. Okay, I've had product. It's funny because I've had, like I've said before, I've had good product. And I always thought that it was because of my product or pitch was not good enough, and it's not the case. It's because I don't I'm not malleable. Okay, I ask questions, I challenge things, and I don't just take things on face value just because you got the money or power. I will go, I don't care. We're equals. No, you can't. No. You know, and I realized that I was not one of those. This is why when you look at the big tech issue and these corporate things, who succeeds in corporate and who doesn't, who succeeds in these areas and who gets support and who doesn't, it becomes very clear that in order to succeed under this system now in 2022, not in 1998, that changed. The DMCA kind of shifted that, as did the war on fucking, blockchain, as does this constant war on, again, using copyright to silence everybody and fuck everyone and homogenize all of the creative assets. And you can't, there's no such thing as, like even if under copyright law, you've got this thing called, my brain, what is it? Derivative works, okay? You got derivative works. But again, they're so powerful that you can't say that. You'd have to argue it in court. So the tech companies won't get involved. They won't go, oh, well, it's a derivative. No. That's why I support memes so heavily, because I'm like, no, fuck it. It's derivative work. It's creative. It's like, no. If you have an NFT of those original memes, then you can get royalties for life if that's used. That's where NFT technology is useful. But that's why this fucking Bored Ape thing feels like a commissioned psyop to fucking make NFTs a scam. Or it's like, no, the technology is immature, but what the benefit is for people to get royalties for life and track ownership and make sure people get a cut of what they make. Record labels don't want that. They want to be the distributors of that shit. Movie producers, people who film comedy specials, comedians who want to just film their comedy special and put it out to their fans, for example, on Patreon. And they can then, as that gets sold or as that NFT travels through the fandom or whatever and increases in price, if it increases in value, they get a cut of every sale, right? Because they've got royalties, as does their cameraman and their lighting guy and everyone. They can distribute royalties. That's the power of NFTs, and it wouldn't surprise me if these guys have a fucking problem with that. Anything that democratizes, these guys have been at war with on the internet. And that's why, this is probably a separate stream, but, this is why you have to support things like the open source movement, become a member of, support the Internet Archive, join, give them a subscription. Wikipedia, make sure that if you see something, you sign up and you become an editor and you make sure they're corrected. Do your things, okay? Do the work, because this is, people power is the only thing we've got, because people can't fight this in the courts, okay? People have no means. The power and money that is behind this stuff, including the massive power of the United States government, okay? Now, again, it's more complicated than that because we all put this law in place. But the DMCA is the default, okay? You've also got copper and there's a whole bunch of other stuff, But we can defeat these things. We can defeat these things. We have in the past, okay? But it's just so, this is why when Judith asked me, what's this? And I'm like, well, what isn't it? My answer is, what isn't it? It is everything that we hold dear on the internet and that we were promised and was taken from us. And it's the thing that made me quit, because it was this homogenization. I said this in my blog post about why I quit marketing. And I said, I'm no longer a craft. I'm no longer doing anything creative. Like, I can a little bit, but for myself, but for clients, it's like, no, I likened it to people, someone who makes a really nice piece of furniture, like a bespoke, carved, beautiful piece of furniture. But it's gone from that to being assembly, IKEA assembly. Everything is flat packed. And it's the same thing happening with technology. Everything is just cobbled. It's not, there's no one. If you've tried to hire anybody in tech, or tried to subcontract anything, or tried to work with anybody in tech, it is so hard to find anyone who just gives a fuck about what they do. It is just assembly, and it is just a factory floor with people just writing shitty code, and no one cares. And the problem is that when I care and then people compare me to somebody, like I'm a craftsman and they compare me to somebody who will just give them a shitty website. Not that, with bad code that is just crap. And they don't care about the architecture. They don't care about anything. And I know my website architecture is not great. I'm working on it. But again, like no one cares. No one cares. And that's why even with this course, which I'm calling Responsible Influence, I don't know how it's going to go. So healthy communities, running healthy communities is responsible influence, responsible admin, that factors in a lot of these things like the culture wars and stuff, and how to survive in that and how to deal with stuff, how to deal with conflict resolution, some of the studies around radicalization and how you can, again, accidentally radicalize. Right. Hi, Thomas is here. Hello. I missed you. Thank you. Yeah, and it's just, hello. Long time. I thought you were mad at me. I don't know why. I don't know what. I've been meaning to message you, and then I messaged you and didn't get a reply. You must have just been busy. But this is the thing. Because it also does, it does this thing where you kind of, someone disappears and you get paranoid because this is the problem, which is that it's such a lottery with, especially when you're talking about the culture wars, which is that I said this early on, that you can, and actually, who was it? Richard Wolff did a thing about Ukraine, and he actually said, if you are, not having a position, not fighting, not supporting either side is an option. And it's the same thing in the culture war. It's okay I'm a pacifist. It is not fighting as an option, not taking a side as an option, and just making sure that you stay true to principles. And I'm anti-war, okay? I'm pro-free speech. I'm pro-women. And being pro-women is not anti-trans. I'm pro-trans rights. Okay, I'm anti-violence. I'm anti-death threats. I'm anti-narcissist fucking psychopaths. I'm generally anti-capitalist. Okay, but not in the way that this is the thing that the right has this powerful straw man against socialism. It's just like it's just the labor theory of value. It's not fucking It's not. It's just basically, why do you get 50% of my shit? Why structurally? Why? What? Because you put money in. And because you got money, you get all the power. That's really the question that's being asked, okay? How come capital controls everything? How come you can't just create something and build a community? And this is why I like Amanda Palmer. Shout out to her. She's good apples, right? She's sort of a trailblazer in this stuff. But she's sort of, she's had dramas with this fucking being called transphobic and shit and ableist, blah, 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 with, mostly bots. And, and so she's just sort of, a lot of people are trying to navigate that space. But if you're independent and you have a community who love you, you are powerful. If you make a living off your own back and nobody, I've said this before, if you can't be cancelled if you're not owned, okay? You can't be cancelled if you own your own shit. And you can't be cancelled, you can't be defamed, or you can't have your reputation destroyed if you have a community of people who believe you and love you. It doesn't matter. And this is the problem that we've got societally, is this thing where people are mistaking media and social media and all these bots and propaganda and this nonsense censorship where there's constant one side of the story and memory holing everything. This fight to memory hole everything from 4 fucking corporations, okay? It's not China. It's not it's corporate interests, okay? And honestly, when you understand China I understand China, again, I oppose oppression, I oppose violence, I oppose all these things, okay? China's not without its faults. But the elephant in the room is that a lot of China's, again, the firewall and the history around the firewall, it was in self-defense around this shit. Because they were constantly, trying to get the Chinese to overthrow their fucking government. That's what the US does. Okay? And China saw this, and it was largely, again, that's been memory hold. Now there's this narrative. Now I'm not saying no government is without blame. Australian government fucking does the egregious shit. The way we treat like refugees is abhorrent. Those, again, that's whataboutism. On this particular issue, I'm on the side of big tech, and on this particular issue, like the DMCA and the weapon of the DMCA, an American act, by the way, being used as the default so that we all have to suffer and all be censored into this American corporatized, homogenized, Disneyfied, McDonaldized like worldview. And if you don't comply, like look at LinkedIn. Do you want the internet? Like, that's the dream. Is if you fucking go on LinkedIn. Okay, ironically, LinkedIn's actually, because they've got people there, because it's LinkedIn are actually pretty cool when it comes to speech. They're actually one of the better ones, believe it or not. But the users are, it's full of corporate shit. Okay, where people pretend that they're in their dream job. We know they're not. No one dreams of it. But again, here's another argument with socialism, right? I find it funny, these weird-ass arguments where they're like, well, if you live under socialism, nobody would clean the toilets or do the dirty jobs. And it's like, no, what would happen is that the people with capital who aren't doing the jobs that matter would have less capital. And those that do jobs that matter, like cleaning up the shit, nurses, doctors, teachers, the people who do actual fucking work and things that people create. The thing about socialism is that the irony is that they've sort of flipped it, which is that under socialism, in order to live, you have to have something of value within the market in order to, you will be paid fairly and compensated fairly. You are competing more fairly in a socialist market than under one where capital buys your way. It's more, ironically, that's the irony of this whole narrative. It's backwards, which is that under, this, again, when I say socialism, I kind of mean more democratic socialism, social democrat system. That's kind of the consensus around what works, right? But under these sort of the perfect socialist democratic system, there's more merit because you take away the ability to game the system just because you've got the capital. You see, like you take away the incentive to exploit. You take away the incentive to, it has knock-on effects because all of the incentives disappear because the exploitation is not the incentive. The accumulation is not the incentive anymore. The incentive is to create something of value that people want to buy, that people need. And sorry, but cleaning up shit's a very important service. Do you know how? Okay, I've got another argument there. Do you know how I've worked with waste. A lot of companies, I actually work with a lot of waste management companies, right? Tony Soprano, I'm in waste management. If I had the capital, I would just go into like waste management. Do you know how much money there is in liquid waste? Now, I work with a liquid waste management. Now, liquid waste is a euphemism for sewers, rotten food, fucking nuclear shit, chemicals, acid, like liquid shit, dangerous. They are smashing it. 3 trucks, fucking, millions and millions of dollars. Because you know what? That's not just capitalism. Under socialism, that's the case. We will pay for people to take our shit away. Okay, it doesn't matter. That's just such a stupid argument because it actually doesn't even understand human nature, which is that most of us will fucking not want to touch that stuff and we value the people that do it. If anything, they will be treated with the respect that they deserve because they're essential. They won't just sit there clapping hands and banging saucepans for essential workers while doing fuck all and making their life harder by going into a fucking mask debate and enforcing masks and all that shit, which is common sense. But again, no understanding of like the psychology, which is that if you're being a fuckwit, an authoritarian, there's going to be a portion of the population who double down and reject you just because they're contrarian, like me. Like I was always pro-mask, sensible, yes. Hate those fuckwits who are wearing 7 masks and like, you know, putting fucking brands on it and all that stuff, right? And not banning people and authority. It's like, fuck off with that shit. Okay, common sense prevails. Yeah, put on a mask. It's not a fucking identity. Okay? And also, your extremism is making here you go. Every action has an opposite and equal reaction. People are prone to physics as well, especially in social psychology, okay? You create the extremist that you hate. You create the opposite of the thing that you are demonizing, and that's the big problem we've got. It's fucking frustrating. Anyway, I'm sitting here shouting into the void, telling all these people to shut the fuck up. But what I like is that I feel like there's some correction happening. Like, I used Taylor Lorenz from the Washington Post as an example. And that fucking, oh my God, that Felicia, I love that, bye Felicia. But like, she's been demoted. Although it is weird though, because they still see it as she's been sent to the technology department at the Washington Post. I'm like, is that a demotion? Fuck me. Okay, talking about the tech's kind of important, and I don't want her in charge of tech. I don't want her talking about tech because that's her problem. Her problem is selective information about tech, and it's very important. Why can't I work for the Washington Post? Hello, I want to write. Actually, I do. I should be a tech. I should just be a fucking tech journal, technologist, whatever. I just sit here talking and I don't know what I sell. What do I sell? Consulting, I suppose, on strategy. I'm doing the course, but I'm fading. Lyrica is fucking me. I'm heading into Lyrica Loopyville because it's lunchtime and it's a 2-hour stream. I'm sorry about that, but I rambled. But this DMCA, when you say what's the DMCA and what's this about, it's about a lot. Okay, and it's the exact same war that has Julian Assange, you know, under just all of that stuff. I don't want to go into that. It's just painful because we can anyone like who's been on the internet for as long as I have and expressed themselves owes him just a great debt. And I wish that there was more. I wish I had more. I wish I'd been smarter about building influence early on. I wish I'd continued it, and because now I have no platform, and that I have no resources, and I wish I'd done it earlier when I had the chance to build a platform and an audience. But now I won't be able to, because I don't have that sort of that fat cash support. Oh my God, look at my nails. It's so gross. Why is that like that? Oh yeah, I was looking at my plants. I haven't washed my hands. Oh yeah, my God. Okay, yuck. Sorry about it. Bad. I really need to do some. Maintenance of stuff. Have another haircut. Anyway, I'm going to go. I love you. To my patrons, I thank you very much because I know I haven't delivered lately and I feel very bad about it. I'm thinking about something physical. I'm just going to, now I've got an intern, I'm going to get him to do some sort of posts and stuff, posting for me. I'll just write some stuff and post. It's more about like just, I don't want to do client work anymore, but it's the only source of income I've got. I'd like to be able to make it so that I'm full-time Patreon, but I just can't see. I can't see how it just fucking hammer gone. No Twitter growth, no YouTube growth, no nothing, just flatline. It's insane. I don't know how to get on the good algorithm. Anyway. I'll just maybe it's something I'm doing wrong. I think it is. It's all right. I know technically what it is. I keep trying to fight it. And the reason, like when people are like thumbnails and clips and fucking all that stuff and do TikTok, it's like, no, because when I'm trying to fight that homogenization and I'm not somebody who can be, I try to fight against that. And it's just every time I make clips or every time I do something that's like more polished or something like that or edit, it reminds me that I've been defeated by this thing. You know how I was saying that every part of much like, the farming agriculture has been sort of homogenized and there's no real, farmers don't love farming anymore. They're just production. right? Primary production, right? It's happening everywhere, and it's happening in this industry as well. And I try to fight it where I can, which is to try and find those few people who want to hang out for a few hours and feel less crazy and see through some of the more popular like channels, and and I surely can find 100 people who will support me and support me in this stuff. I don't need a lot, but I don't know how to. That's the problem, is that I know all of this stuff. I know how to do it. Done it for 25 years. I can do all that stuff. But doing that, I'm still fighting, and it means I have to admit that this stuff has won, and that people do only pay attention to 10-second, 30-second clips, that people only, by the way, the labels are fighting TikTok too, by the way, over the fucking use of like copyrighted material and sound clips from movies and all that sort of stuff. So they're fighting TikTok too. So I'm saying, like, they're fighting everything. You can't create anything. They want you to just assemble and do mashups of their stuff. I'm doing mashups, and every time I do a clip or something, I have to admit that I'm wrong, and I still believe that people will watch longer stuff. Like, they'll still watch someone quite impressively, if I might say so myself, do all of this production themselves. They might see my journey from being afraid of video but having skills and just leaning into all of it and just going for it and doing it and learning and changing and shifting. And that's my record, and like I've removed some of the stuff that I just don't think landed, like some of the trans stuff that didn't land, because I just, but it's not a secret. It's still there. It's just, I still have a brand to, I'm still not an idiot, but at the same time, it's there as the record. And to edit me is to strip me of context, first thing, and also to admit that we've lost, and that these guys just want us smashing up shit, and they collect every part of the profit and every part of the income, and we will earn whatever they decide we earn as part of it. So YouTube is part of the problem as well. They decide what we earn. We don't get a cut. I demonetize because do you know how much I made in 3 years of YouTube? $100. I didn't make a cent. Do you know why? Because I technically on paper earned $100, but the paperwork, I needed to spend about $1,200 to get the paperwork that I needed to register all the tax stuff in order to withdraw that $100 into my account. So, again, there's that thing, they make it so it's so rigged in favor of those with the resources, and with, that's the thing. You can, like, there's bullshit that you can just set up a YouTube and make money. You can't, unless you've got the money to get everything in line. They make the admin so onerous that it's about barrier to entry. Okay, the barrier to entry is now high. So if people pop up out of the blue, like I do want to talk about that Doge channel that just popped up out of nowhere. That was, I've mentioned it before, but I want to just do it as a case study because it was fucking weird and fascinating how all these things just popped up. And that's when I started to see how easy it is to just, like, whack-a-mole, pop up bullshit and like catch people into a funnel. Like, I was like, that's bizarre. Like, that's weird. And it was again, I've seen it happen a few times, but now I'm very skeptical of anyone who just suddenly succeeds, because I know what it takes. And I've sort of, if someone just pops up out of nowhere and they've suddenly got a lot of super chats and they've suddenly got a lot of money, like patrons and things, like, and it happens quickly, I'd be suspicious. I'd question where the money's coming from. And so, because I subsidize all of this stuff with whatever I earn, and also my husband, pays an awful lot. He believes in me and wants me to do this, and he subsidizes a lot of my stuff while I try to pursue whatever the fuck it is. Like, I try to get these courses written and stuff. But I know what it takes, and it's odd to see all these people just pop up suddenly. But also, I also know what it costs. So if someone's popping up with, like, titles and Because even if you buy sort of titles, you still got to know After Effects. You still got to know how to do these things yourself. Either do it yourself or get someone to do it. So what they're doing, if they have popped up and they're a new channel and they're not making any money, they have to have some money to do those things, either themselves, which for me, I know what it, again, I know what I charge. I charge like $200 an hour minimum for this kind of work. But, you know, they could have used Fiverr, or they'd be using someone for free. Like I refuse to use Fiverr or interns other than my son, who is homeschooled and needs to learn shit. But otherwise, you know, but he will actually also be a director of my company when he turns 18. So it's, but the thing is, like, be suspicious of what it is. What a lot of this stuff is, it does feed back to the DMCA in the fact that these large media companies have not only the content and production resources at their disposal to build these things, they have the interests to build these things. They have the bot farms to build these things. They have a never-ending supply of people willing to just go on and pretend to be like an influencer or whatever. Okay, now I actually was tracking one particular guy, that Doge guy, and he suddenly flipped into being a space guy. So he's a paid actor. And it was, you know, so be suspicious of these things that suddenly pop up out of nowhere, and they're, you know, getting you into crypto, or they're selling you something, even politics, especially politically. These people that just pop up out of nowhere, and you don't know how they make money. It's not clear how they make their money, but they've suddenly got a lot of influence and suddenly getting all these guests on, and it's like there's connections happening behind the scenes. I know how difficult it is. Okay, I know how difficult it is because I have done it. And I sit there and I exist as the anomaly, the person who goes in and through, not just, you know, sitting behind a spreadsheet. I know every fucking detail of what it takes to be in this space. And I know that most of it's bought and sold by certain political interests. Even if they don't know they're being bought, they're being nudged in certain directions by, you know, getting lots of super chats and all that sort of stuff, and manipulating the audience. Because remember, there's a social proof aspect to this as well, which is that when, you know, this is why I kind of didn't want the super chat thing or the or really pushing Patreon or anything like that. And I just say it's really kind of you, but, you know, I don't expect it. It would be nice if I could survive, but I, you know, whatever that, it's I downplay it purely because the way that they trap people is in creating hype and creating social proof so that people feel like they're missing out on something or might get more access or something like that. So they, you know, obviously put money in that they get caught up in that moment. And also just to have their chat seen, paying to have your chat seen or stuff like that. It's like, well, no, I don't like that system of, again, people with money getting access and people without money having to struggle, and they might have good ideas. That's the problem that we've got. And that's why I'd rather do something based on loyalty and tenure. And that's why, because someone messaged me and said that I'm sorry, but, you know, money's seasonal and stuff like that. I have to stop being a patron. And I was like, okay, well, you're still a supporter. Like, you're just a supporter. You supported me once and you continue to support me and you show up, right? You show up and you pass, you know, like if you could share my shit, that's useful. And connect. One of the things that I need is connection with people who are, you know, who might want to fund me. I don't have any access. I don't know. There's no one really with oh, hang on. Sorry. People have been chatting and I didn't realize. Oh, sorry. So Thomas, right, said, I've been punched out for a long time, swimming from the ship of fools, saving lives, bucking the system. Yeah, so Thomas is a doctor trying to navigate around the tear in the fabric of reality. Not angry. Yeah, okay, cool. Thank you. Sorry. Yeah, so Matt's here. Okay, I got rate limited for Facebook comments, and frankly, I don't think they don't work. Right. Oh, okay, yeah, I'll read them later. Sorry, so Matt said he was reading. Sorry, I had the chat covered. I didn't see them. Sorry, I was in a yeah, and you know, this guy got in touch with me. I didn't want to talk about it because I try to be like, it's confidential, but I'm just going to talk in general. This guy got in touch with me about how he was banned from Twitter and he's all outraged and he wants to expose blah, blah, blah. And the same thing with Facebook, and they're all upset. And there's something about the bogan reaction to Facebook. Like if you've got a family member who goes to Facebook jail, they just go, oh yeah. It's much like, it's very Aussie where they're like, oh, you go get arrested. Ha ha. You get arrested. Ha ha. You go in the wagon. Ha ha. Dickhead. Ha ha. Serves you right. And I think it's a taxi. You're too drunk. You've gone too far. I think that there is something about that where you become, I think you have to become Teflon about this stuff and know the system that works. You know what it is. You know it's humiliating. It's like walking into, Centrelink is our social security welfare thing. You walk in there. Oh, God. I hate the fact that Centrelink and Medicare are together because it's like, fucking hell. Anyway, whatever. But you walk in there and it's demeaning. It's just that's the system. Police. You walk into the police and they're going to not believe you, and that's just how you do it. You learn. I think that I've talked about this before. I think we're just learning how to behave on it, and that's where the deal was changed because we were told we could be free. We were told we could communicate freely, and then we were told, no, you can't do that. Again, it's back to the DMCA, right? Which is that they're using these things to censor people. These, and like I said, in this instance, Google. Amazon, not so much, but Facebook and those things are actually the good guys in this. They try very hard to fight these frivolous DMCA things. But like I said, they can't fucking, they're humans too. These are very powerful, very, very powerful people. And they want to control the internet. And I think that maybe that's the thing is that I was saying why I don't edit and don't do the, things that I should be doing is because, like I said, I have to admit that it's over, that the promise is over, that I can't do what I want and you know what I mean? Like that. It's just kind of like that last stand. And I know it sounds silly, but it is kind of like the last stand where it's like, no, I'm going to do something where I just talk to my friends and say what I want. And it's naive, I know. But I think that people need to understand where I'm coming from because I'm not complaining, because it's not like going, oh, I'm not doing it. It's not that I don't know what to do. People giving me advice, I get annoyed. It's not that I don't know, okay? And even if I don't know, then my son, he's been going through it and he knows it from a Gen Z perspective and he's very wise. He's like, yeah, you should set up a Clips channel. They seem to set up really well, blah, blah, blah. He's advising me, which is really cool. He does the research, right? But at the same time, it's kind of like that, like I said, that last stand. I don't want to admit that I have to do 15-minute clips or 30-second clips or be a dickhead or act like I'm on an Idol audition on TikTok or not have substance to me. I should be allowed to show up and be human and, share my experience and talk about, what I want to talk about with other people who are like-minded and put it out there, share and share alike and know that it might come back to me in the form of, I'm just trying to be a socialist in this horrible fucking landscape. Trying to lead. I try to be the change I want to see. And that's part of the problem is that there is not really room for being anything but status quo, Yeah, it's frustrating. Anyway, like I said, that you got to admit that you're wrong. Anyway, so Matt said, telling people tonight, yes, Australia is scary, don't go there. I commented on Doug Stanhope's thing because he's been doing like a motel holiday where he goes to various motels and stuff. And I was like, you know what you should do? You should do the from South Australia across the Nullarbor up the west coast and do the hotels and motels and roadhouses there and then stop at Hotel Coolgardie and shit. Because Doug actually, I know that he's interested in Hotel Coolgardie because I wrote a tweet about it and I was talking about it and he, out of the blue, just liked that tweet with no mention of him or anything. So he was obviously looking at people talking about Hotel Coolgardie at one point. So I know it intrigues him. So I said that you should picture a thing where Doug Stanhope goes and they all drink him under the table and it would be just really interesting to see, right? So I said that in his Instagram comments. He doesn't use Twitter anymore much. So it was like, I've planted the seed as much as possible. But yeah, Australians don't give a shit. But I think that there needs to be room for that too, because we need to adapt somehow. And I think like with corporate life or like hospital life, as Thomas, sort of at the coal face of a lot of this stuff, this war on reality and this war on different perspectives and this war on like anything that deviates from this corporate shit. And with, corporate suckholes and fucking Dwight Schrutes and all those people being, not the actor, he got cancelled, but Rainn Wilson got cancelled last week, so whatever. But, this Dwight Schrute fucking, thing, where the biggest corporate suckhole, I think more people, I've been talking about this for a long time, but I think more people see it for what it is, like this cancel shit. To become you're a cancel fuck, right? I've said, I don't say it on Twitter anymore, but, hashtag cancel fucks, right? To be a cancel fuck is a disposition. It's a personality type. And I think it's unique. It's super online. And they will use anything to get ahead and to get over it's like this sort of idol. They're a reality show. They're a living reality show. They're the product of reality television, the product of the internet, where they've somehow got it in their heads that if the more they act out, it's like a histrionic thing, I suppose. I don't like personality disorders, but let's use the framework of histrionic personality disorder, which is that the more drama they create and the more they manipulate and the more they do this stuff, that they can get ahead in this system. And they will use left-wing politics. They will use whatever rhetoric that it takes. They will step on anybody. And that's why the only thing that opposes cancel culture is Marxist analysis. I've tried it from every other angle. I've looked at every other perspective. And I've said the thing that you need to do is take that fucking anarchist handbook out of the fucking wokies' hand and give them class analysis, and they will be allies. That's why, it's just their brains have been scrambled by reality TV and this distorted version of what these things are. And we might see an actual revolution. Maybe we're actually just seeing revolution. We're just before it. Because we know that before a lot of heads got chopped off, a lot of cake got ate by the elites. Okay, so we're seeing maybe this overreach. And I think that maybe if you have trust in the fact that with massive overreach comes again a counter movement, that's what we're seeing, I think, with this DMCA, this overreach with the DMCA. They're taking the piss. They're making it so that all we're doing is mashups of shit that they profit from. And all of the money we get is discretionary. Same thing with fucking this rental market thing, turning us into a permanent leaser, permanent renter, afterpay, pay it in for buy now, pay later. Fucking hell. They accept afterpay at the fucking chemist. It's like, okay, that in Australia, I don't know how that, it's like they sell other things, but, that's what, and again, I love Afterpay, but also what they're doing, I heard actually on Afterpay, did you know that when you apply for a mortgage, using Afterpay, actually counts as a strike against you? That's because it's because the banks have the power and they can determine what is good. And they said that the PayPal transactions and Afterpay transactions are sort of negative on your credit when they're assessing you for a mortgage. And I'm like, but I use PayPal to do business transactions. I'm not on eBay, you fucking, and they're just arbitrary. It's like anti-competitive shit, right? But also with Afterpay, the same thing. But I use Afterpay when, the kids need something or like Christmas, I just spread it out. It's like if I need a new monitor or I need a piece of tech, it's like easier. It's 4 payments. It should only be a mark if you're fucking late and you don't pay it. Like fucking hell, it's so insane. Spreading payments out and managing credit well is actually a mark of good. So anyway, whatever. But what they're doing is actually creating this subclass where, people who rely on Afterpay or people who use, alternative payment platforms or anything like that, because they control the record, because they own the fucking credit reporting agencies as well, that they could then have the power to determine what the record is. And I worry about this stuff with data because I know I've wandered off into but people are here, so whatever. What happened with us, Paul had an old business and he hadn't cancelled the business number. It was just not trading anymore. And that came up on his credit record as an active business, and they made him prove that he didn't have that business anymore and that he wasn't hiding any income or whatever, right? But also, so that actually showed up on his credit record, and it was just an administrative error, and they had that there, and he had to make sure that that was corrected before they'd even consider it. But they were the ones that the data fucked up, right? And there's this rental platform that all these landlords use sorry, my hair fucked up. There's rental platforms where, they use for, tenant records and that sort of thing. And our old property manager stopped using it and moved to another one. And in this new property, we're ahead. But on the old one, because he hasn't closed it off, it says $37,000 behind. We're not. It was just he stopped using. That's how much rent we paid, by the way, in the year. But that we were that in arrears because it's been calculated since he closed that off, and he hasn't closed off that property. But that's sitting there as a piece of data that could quite feasibly be put over and moved over onto a new platform if it gets acquired, and then onto the credit record. And then the onus is on us to then prove that we don't owe $37,000 to this old rental property, and it's not sitting on the tenancy database. This is the kind of system that these people want and create, because they can create this underclass of people who are at the mercy of this data, and this this technocracy of people who have access. Luckily, I can fucking go there and go get it corrected. But what about people who don't know what happened? And they, it's like, I can just immediately go, no, that was because he discontinued that. I know what that is, and I can go get that record. But and also I can be in tech, so I know what happened and all that sort of stuff. They're creating this class of people who don't understand what's going on, and that it can be abused. And if you complain or write, what if you write a blog post complaining about that publicly, and Vita want that taken down, so they get it taken down under copyright or some other thing? Okay, arbitrary false copyright thing, and because there's so many copyright claims, you get taken down. But then they get to memory hole it in the Internet Archive, and that never happened. There's no problem, is there? There's only a problem if we say there's a problem. You see how this, again, I'm not saying that's what the intention is. I'm saying that's what the structure allows. And they haven't given any evidence to the contrary that that's not where they're going, because, again, MK Ultra, fucking CIA shit, they've proven that they are quite willing to go as far as they need to go to, expand US hegemony and corporate power, okay? And that's my opposition. I'm not opposed to America. I'm opposed to that shit. Okay, and that's the shit that we should be fighting. And so support the Internet Archive. Okay, support Julian Assange, support WikiLeaks, support those things, because they're fighting the fight that we should all be fighting, but people are too busy asking me to assemble fucking stock photos together for 25 years rather than paying me to do this kind of fucking advocacy work so I can live, and I can't without doing the fucking Lego that is design these days. Okay, Lego's like more creative than fucking doing websites now. It's IKEA. And it's not even the IKEA hacks. It's just a fucking Billy bookcase day in, day out. Okay? Anyway, that's why I quit. I have no home. I have no profession. I'm studying psychology, and then I'm studying law, and I'm hoping the rest figures itself out. I don't know what the fuck to do. Anyway. So, anyway, where did we go? No, I didn't read the chat. Oh, I've gotten on a rant. It's also gotten dark. I don't know if the lighting's good or not. Sorry about that. So where were we? So I was saying you're doing awesome. No, it's not easy, but sometimes you just have to keep going until, it is like that. And also, it has its own reward, which is that I've noticed that as I stream more, my skills get better. My thoughts get clearer, and thoughts come out on stream that I park in Scrivener to write one day. Never get it done. My writing app is full of snippets, and maybe I just need to, again, it's just spinning wheels. It's like, okay, all I see is these yes men getting funded and these people who spread bullshit getting funded. And I just want to write stuff and say stuff and do real analysis. This is off the fly. I don't prepare for these streams at all, right? I know, you're sure. Also, the lyric has kicked in. You get to see me a bit loopy. Lyrica and Vyvanse together. Interesting combo. Very focused on my loopiness. So anyway, I am going to go now because it's been way too 2 hours and 220. But Matt said, so 1, do thing, question, YouTube partner agreement. One, I think it is. It's just a matter of one day someone takes an interest. One day, like, and that's the thing that I found interesting because, like, I'm not on. Like, they didn't publish the Fantasy podcast. I haven't been. They're not publishing me, so I don't know whether I'm saying something wrong or just not saying the right things or not. Again, because I don't really know what I'm selling, I can't sell it. I can pitch like a motherfucker. I'm sure you would see that I could be a formidable and very persuasive person when I know what I'm selling. Thing is, I don't know what to sell because all I'm selling is sanity and, no one's buying it. People are only buying more and more craziness. And it's just, I'm trying to go through this journey with you and take you with me and do the research and promise that I'll do the work and do the thinking and try to get you to do some less work than me, but, just think and try to see things differently and stay true to your principles and realize that it's okay to be a pacifist. You don't have to be involved in this. You can say, no, I'm not consuming this media. I'm not supporting this stuff. And I'm standing firm. And it's like this stuff with the, with Kelly J in the UK and that, with the trans activists and then the whole same shit happening over and over again with this both sides stuff, all that. It's like, no, there is a conflict in law. This is not an, but also you don't have to double down into other shit. You can just say, I agree with her on this. I don't support the way she does it. I don't support this, ball sucking, like sucking up to the fucking Rogan multiverse. Okay, I don't support that. I will make individual friends, and if anyone wants to talk to me, then I will. But I'm principled. Figure out what your actual principles are. You don't have to move. You don't have to go, okay, I see that there's a conflict here, and then suddenly, start dunking on fucking every trans person that you see for content. You don't have to go on every podcast, misgendering people. You don't have to punch down. Like I wanted to talk about Ricky Gervais' special in a separate stream maybe. But, in his case, I think it's just that's a 2019 special. It was filmed early. It was 2019 material. He had nothing from 2020-22. That'll be the next one. It just dated very quickly. His jokes are from 2019. We've moved on from Yaniv. Most smart people and principled people, mainstream, have moved on. It was funny. We see the conflict. Everyone agrees. There's a polarized war, but you create the opposite of everything that you do. And I want to create a mirror. See, I have a very strong view that, when you're talking about persuasion, and again, I'm sure that there's a theory for this. I'm just riffing, but on the internet, there is what you put out, you create. When you create something, and I know this is again, art versus content. Because content serves capital, content serves other things. It has an end game. It asks something. It's transactional. Art is relational. If you know the difference between relational and transactional thinking, then that's another thing. But art is more relational. And when you are a relational person, you put things out and you care for people and you do things with no expectation of anything in return. And you hope that it'll occur. Like I operate in a more relational way. Unfortunately, transactional people who are just about, the transaction, what they get out of it, okay? I just not good with transactional thinking. What's in it for me, people? I don't get along. Relational people are generally, vulnerable to exploitation from transactional people because transactional people will do and say whatever they need to get what they want, right? But relational people will trust in the goodness of people. But I also believe that when you put something out, you create a mirror or you inspire people. Like when I was doing some of my brand work, I know this stream's long, but I'm just on a roll. When I was doing like a lot more sort of marketing commentary and, you can read some of my old posts about stuff. I've kind of I really should put some of my old stuff up on Patreon or something. But anyway, I really should just do some stuff. But you don't know who you're influencing. This is something that I know, and it's part of the course. So I've already written this down. But You don't always know who's watching you quietly. You don't always know who's paying attention. You don't always know who you will influence when you are speaking. Like some people will give feedback. Like Matt's chatting away, and thank you for saying that I take some balls. Okay. Because it's very difficult and very hard and very vulnerable to just show up and speak on your own, and be able to carry 3 hours is really fucking hard work. Well, it's not hard. But the thing is, it actually comes quite naturally to me now. I just sit here talking to you like I would talk to Paul. Paul can tell when I haven't streamed much because I start doing it. But I truly believe, and this is something like this has happened so many times over the years, which is that I have had CEOs of very influential, powerful people, or I've met people, or I've gotten a random message out of nowhere from people. I get a lot of messages from crazy fucks too, but I get, stuff from people over the years, and I didn't even know they had watched me. Didn't even know. I had no idea. They're not putting money down, anything like that, but they should. If I influence you, you should. But, someone said, it comes back to me that something I've said, or a post that was shared that I wrote, or something like there's things that I wrote that have inspired people to push back with their doctor and get a diagnosis on something, right? Because doctors have a tendency to go, well, it's rare, and therefore dismiss it, especially with things like something like, scleroderma or Cushing's, or those things, okay? Those rare kinds of diseases, but they're systemic, and you've got to push a bit harder, especially if you're subclinical, right? And I haven't got a lot of that health stuff there anymore. Oh, my health stuff, my God, it's so fucking annoying. Anyway, but I wrote these things down, and it inspired people to go to their doctor and push harder, and they got diagnosed and got treated. I've, written things about my life where I've made new mums feel better about formula feeding or less alone, and they've seen me get fucking dogpiled. Like, again, these mums the TERFs are nothing compared to the fucking mummy forum shit. The trans thing is just them using that to fucking do the same shit they've always done. They always find a thing. It'd be over slings or prams if it wasn't this, right? So that's just normal, right? So I just see this stuff and I go, yeah. Remember when there were 1,200 comments in 2 hours because I said that C-section rates are not the real problem, and that there's another root cause? That was it. It was on, because I had elective C-sections, well, emergency first and then 2 electives, and I would push back against these natural parenting types, right? I was like, who gives a shit? No one gives a shit now. Okay, my kids are all great. They're fine. They've grown up as comedians mostly, so I don't know whether that's fully fine. I won't go if you don't want me to go, Matt. That's fine. But it's just like, what was I saying? Can't remember. Oh yeah. So none of this stuff's new, but I've seen that just by doing that stuff, by putting it out there, it doesn't matter if you get comments, it doesn't matter if you get feedback. Speaking into the void. Now I know you said you were speaking into the void, but you're not really, because people still see it. And I've noticed that, and this is something that maybe you haven't noticed because I put out more than most people would think. They think I don't have a filter or I don't have that, but I do, because I do it with a responsibility. I always assume that, like I said at the beginning of the stream, you do things as if they're going to be played back in court. Like, look at the Amber Heard Johnny Depp thing, like playing all that stuff. Imagine being in that seat. Like, I empathize with both. Like, it's humiliating. Okay, we all say dumb shit when we're mad. We all say dumb shit in a fight, and we're like, but on the internet, imagine if you're sued and that's all there written down, especially when it's written down because it's stripped of fucking tone and context. Okay, imagine if I think about that, but I've also, when I write on LinkedIn, and I've had people say, do you know that I shared your post with the brand manager of Vodafone. Sorry, can someone get the door, please? I think that's our coffee. Oh, it's just a coffee. Don't worry, it's just an espresso. Sorry. That's all right. The door rang. My office is near the front door. No, but I've had people come to me and they go, like, I didn't even know that a blog post made the brand manager at Vodafone India go, no, let's change direction. We've got to rethink this. We've got to rethink that. We've got to rethink that. And that's happened a lot where people just go, you know what? Out of the blue, they'll go, I was having a bad day and you wrote something and I felt better. And you made me laugh for the first time this week because I'm having a really shit time. And I think people should remember that. That's true empathy. It's not sitting around like caving to the demands of a crazy fucking abusive person. Empathy is making sure that, and again, this whole free speech, why are you fighting for the right to be a fuckwit? I fight for the right to just speak because I also expect that people will be responsible in the way that they speak and considered in the way that they speak. And if you're not considerate in the way that you speak or honest, then, that's a different rule. Free speech implies, or freedom of expression implies, a good faith in, conversation, not scamming and conning and lying and, all that stuff. That was not what the intention was. And especially not in the 1800s when this was fucking written, or 1700s. Okay. So anyway, but so I said, you're the product. Yay, getting it. It's a man from the CIA. Wants to know if you've heard the word of our Lord and Master. Yeah. Oh, Jesus bot was funny. Anyway, but also, like, US is our Lord and Master. Like I said, they are our government, so I'm talking about it. If you think our government is independent of the United States, I don't know what to say. Don't know what to tell you. We're not. We're embedded, okay? And where US isn't, China is, and that's just the reality. And, there's that subtle war. There's this sort of subtle war for our hearts and minds and brains and lives under capitalism and communism. I prefer communism to capitalism. Fuck this shit. It's not working, so let's try something else. Anyway. But I was saying, like, in my 25 years, like, again, this is stuff that I want to write about in the book, and it's all just draft notes at the moment and just brain farts, but anecdotes and stuff. But, like what was it? I've talked about this before where I was just blogging, like, just dance like no one's watching, but remember people are. You don't just dance like no one's watching. And that's the problem, is that it's like, yes, dance like no one's watching, but assume someone might walk in at some point. Okay, so, you're still, the thing is, I'm someone who conducts myself exactly in public as I would in private. I am who I am. I'm probably fart more at home, but that's about it, you see me for me, and I show up, and that's whatever. And I think that that's what freedom of expression and freedom of speech is that people should show up authentically, and people should show up honestly, and people should show up with integrity and use those voices with integrity. But unfortunately, those that are pushing for free speech at the moment so hard are the ones that are lying, and they want to sort of promote their desire to lie. Sorry, they want to protect their ability to scam people, and it's basically like televangelism on for politics. It's basically now just political televangelism. Like Tim Pool's a televangelist, okay, but I don't know what the answer is, because I also I'm anti-censorship. So the only thing that I can do is fight for the Internet Archive to be able to be correct, for the record to be correct, and for people to be free to show up and be who they are and let the record speak for itself. To close off this stream. Okay, that closes off the stream. Sorry, Matt. But yeah, dance like no one's wearing pants because it's probably funnier. Absolutely. But, it's the same thing with, I have no problem with public speaking, because all I do, I was scared of video because I was always scared of the comment section saying things about my teeth or my hair or fucking my weight or whatever, right? But then I realized that I've always just shown up when people need me to show up, and they'll find me if they're going to show up. Somehow they end up finding me when they need me, and I need more people to find me, that's all. But at the same time, I don't know what I'm talking about. Oh, yeah. I was making a point about something about speech. Oh, yeah. I want people to just, this links back to like copyright. I want to be able to express who I am, what I like, show you what I like, use examples. It is fair use, and just be free, and you trust us to do the right thing. That's what the intention of copyright law was to begin with. And also, like punishing those that actually do the wrong thing, those that lie, those that misrepresent who they are, those that pop up on YouTube with like suddenly 100,000 like people and all these super chats, and it's dodgy. Again, this is just me as an idealist kind of personality, that like I'm an idealist, and I just get upset that people are so dishonest, and also that people are okay with people being dishonest because it affirms their worldview. And how to penetrate that is insane. Like I think that for my own sanity, I need to back off trying to fix it, because you can't. But I think that there's a point where it just becomes about your own survival and making sure that I can show up and say what I think and hope for the best and fight where I can and keep people in the right fucking mindset. And maybe you'll go and tell people that there's this person who is telling you what, like some truth. She might be a bit fucking sloppy and focused too much on her lights, on her 93-point lighting system. Simple 73-point lighting system. And, she's a little unpolished, but she's honest, and she shows up, and she will answer you genuinely, not with a 7-minute video explaining something that you could have Googled or read if you really wanted to know. But the reason why Judith asked me what this was because she knew and she trusted me that I would tell her what's actually happening. And what's actually happening is that there is a corporate war on the internet that is never fucking ending, and they're winning. And I just want the right for people to show up honestly, genuinely, transparently, and get what we were promised. Right? That's all I want. As I've said from the very beginning, they changed the deal, and I want what I was promised, because I gave up I gave up everything. I gave up everything for this promise, to support the fucking idea that artists could be free, truly free, and go direct and have, like this, design their own lives like I did. And I've lived that example, and I want to tell them, I want to be able to live that example and say, you know what, we had a temporary setback, but it ended well in the end. At the moment, I feel like I have to tell people, don't try. Do the corporate thing. Do you want money? Do you want fame? Or do you want to be an artist? And you have to pick between the two of those, because if you are an artist, you're going to, but if you are an artist, like visual, audio, whatever, you are better off making stock. You are better off making content, and you are better off. Anyone who calls that was the attorney, like Constantine at Trigonometry said this, right? He was, because when I did their website, and he kept referring to what they do as content, and I'm like, but this is political. It's not content. These are serious fucking issues. You need to see this as not as content. Why are you, and that was when I decided to sort of not really, I sort of slowly backed away there, because I saw that he was just, I watched him pretend that it was cancelled when it wasn't. I watched him pretend that. And he lied to the audience, and I saw it happen over Posey Parker when she was on. Because I'm the one who suggested that he have Graham, Megan Murphy, Posey Parker. I told them, I introduced them to, he said we're having Posey on, and I sat down for an hour and a half with him and explained to him, because he was like, oh, she's like, anti-trans. He was like, she's a bigot. He was going to interview her. She's like controversial. He only wanted her on because she was controversial. And then I said, no, actually, you need to hear what she's got to say. Her style is unconventional and direct, but the issue is real. And I sat and I explained the issue to him. And I suggested I introduced him to Graham, and I suggested he talk to Megan Murphy, who then went and shat on everyone. and ignored me, and none of them credit me with any of this shit. So that's why I'm like, fuck it. I'm just going to show up and tell you what happened. And, you know, be as it may. None of those fucks watch my channel, so who cares? Tell them. Okay? Maybe I should drum up some fucking drama and controversy and pretend that I didn't, like, you know, take a whole bunch of donations from fucking women and then shit on them on the largest podcast in the world, you know, and pay none of it forward to those who got you there. And now pretending to be besties with all these people, knowing full well that there's an interview with someone else where you just showed nothing but contempt because I wasn't useful. Friendly when useful, but, you know, otherwise not. Right? She knows what this is. She knows you're shitting on the left, right? Anyway, fucking that's a side point. I'm actually probably oversharing there because I'm trying, like I said, I'm trying to be responsible and honest without drumming up all of this fucking shit. But I'm really, like, incensed by that lying because she knows what she's shitting on the left. I'm leaving the left bullshit. You know that makes money. And it's like, she knows what she's doing because I told her what this was. I told her about the history of this and that this is a deliberate thing and that, you know, she's being sort of nudged in certain directions because it's useful and she needs to get back to socialism and back to what she believed. And then, you know, 3 months later, she's fucking shitting on the left and shitting on all the people who supported her and then writing these things about leaving the left because she's gotten that fucking money love bomb. And it's like, fuck you. I introduced you to the trigonometry people. Go fuck yourself. Anyway. But I'm trying to be... so Matt said, I'm a cynical optimist, which is really... It is hard. It is hard to be... It's really hard. Like every day, you know, like I feel like, you know, like that 1984. Let's not forget, you know, all these people that talk about fucking 1984. People forget that Winston actually lost in the end and he surrendered. People forget that he actually fucking, if you actually read the book, he gave in. He relented. They won. It's on my hair, sorry. I know you're not here for my hairstyle, so it's good. I've really got to go to the hairdresser and get this shit sorted. Anyway, but yeah, it's just, sorry. And so VNB said, that's because you're a responsible person. Too many out there, especially on social forums, aren't they? Even use it to stir up. Yeah, but it's all about clout or money or anything like that. I said this. There's actually probably something that you could define in psychology as a profile of somebody who has internalized too much reality television, too much sort of, you know, viral shit, and it actually is quantified, and they call them cyborgs. They're cyborgs. They don't differentiate between sort of reality, and they're always sort of on clout. They're always sort of shooting. They're always filming. They're always selfie. You know, all that stuff. And there is the social media addiction and social media disorders, but I think there's a specific subset of that is about the relentless pursuit of fame and reward in a pathological manner, right? Yeah. So Matt said Parker Posey is a great villain, and I love watching shows with her. Are you talking about Posey Parker or Parker Posey, the actress? Posey Parker is the trans. She's actually she's controversial, but yes. I don't. Well, her and I have also, again, you know all these people. We've locked horns because she just won't. She's relentless, and I have a more moderate take on this stuff. I see it. I see that I think she's useful in getting clarity on the argument. I just can't get there. I just can't get there. It's just not. It's not the right thing. I don't like misgendering people. I appreciate you immensely, and I'm an extreme narcissist, so that makes you famous now, doesn't it? Something like that. Oh, the actress. Yeah, no, I'm not talking. I love Posey. I love Parker Posey. Fucking Josie and the Pussycats. That's the thing. Watch Josie and the Pussycats. My friend Kay Hanley, singer, the soundtrack for that. But it's one of my favorite movies. It's such a great speaking of Parker Posey now, Parker Posey, she's the villain in that. And it's one of my favorite fucking movies. That it's just so true with the headbands and the brainwashing and that journey of what it means. That's what it is. It's the same thing. Once you realize that the woke shit is the same shit, it's like Coke is the new Pepsi, not that shit. Orange is that stuff. That's what it is. It is just nothing. There's no substance to it. But the problem is that people think that this was always the problem. I said it early on. Where are the adults who know that this is bullshit? I think they fell for it for a while because of a problem with boomers wanting to understand Gen X and millennials without wanting to look, they didn't want to look old. Because I work with this stuff, these boomer CEOs. So there was this rhetoric in corporate land and corporate consulting land that they needed to consult more with millennials on stuff. And I think the problem is that they consulted with millennials and the wrong millennials on the wrong things. And they took their like stupid ideas and like implemented them and sort of created this fucking monster. Because it's funny because I worked with corporate brand teams for years. Okay, I know what they see it as a campaign. Again, content. It's just content. Content is stripped of context. It is consumable information. It just happens to have been political because there was a lot of pressure on corporations to, show corporate social responsibility, right? This was the thing. And they're never going to do it from the ground up. They're never going to do anything from the ground up. So what they're going to do is they will, appoint a diversity person who's batshit, okay? And then they'll just go get out of the way, appoint them. And Google did that. They just appointed all these diversity people, and then they gave them KPIs. They didn't meet the KPIs. They got rid of the department, right? It was funny. And then, but, I know a bunch of diversity people at major brands. They're actually really good people, but they're just stuck. So they work with the brand team to kind of virtue signal this stuff. They're producing content for the machine, for the corporate machine. And again, it's all about the KPIs and what the KPIs are, meeting the KPIs. And the KPIs are, okay, how many people, they just say dumb shit. And that's where I'm trying to sell the consulting product, because it stops brands accidentally fucking doing stuff and getting putting their feet where they don't, they shouldn't be talking about these issues because they're sensitive. And so I'm going to help them navigate those landmines as a brand team. And maybe that's where I can make a little cash. I don't know. In the meantime, I'm assembling stock images into a WordPress. So yay, it's a great use of my brain. I love it. Anyway, I'm going to go. It's been way too long, but that's okay. Timestamp if you think I made some clips, because my son's going to start clipping me. That sounded wrong. That sounded like my son is going to clip me with clippers, and I don't want to think about where that would be. Because I only use clippers in like a couple of places. And I don't want my son anywhere near any of them. I'm going to go. I love you. Thanks for watching. All that stuff. Introduce me to people. That's actually, you know what? I've actually said, I appreciate people becoming patrons and the money, but really just like, I don't know, I'm just having problems getting traction. So, I don't know. If you know people who know people, then tell them, Taya's cool. She went a bit mad with the fucking feminist trans stuff lately, but give her another shot, because it's anyway, sometimes it feels personal. It really does. But I actually just think no one's seeing me. No one's getting announcements or anything. I just don't think I'm getting seen. So, and also my streams are too long. But anyway, I love you. Thank you for your precious life hours and seconds and whatnot. I appreciate everything that you give, whether it's your time, your attention, your feedback, your chats, your patrons, your sharing, anything that I'm amazed. But I'm just here, sitting here, making sure I'm in the fucking archive. That's it. Just making sure that I showed up and that I said stuff. And this is easier than writing now. This is the form. And I like the fact that I can just sit and I can just talk, and I can be warts and all, and not content. I'm just showing up, and that's it. So Oh, yeah, that's fine. Again, there's no pressure there. Thanks, Thomas. I appreciate it very much. I really do. So it's never expected. I just when you lose patron, it's a head fuck because I don't value it. But because of the nature, I think it's just because of the nature of this thing where I just end up blocked by people for no reason for saying something that's like, I've been blocked by, it's like a whole bunch of TERFs, unfriended by TERFs, unfriended by MAGAs, unfriended by socialists, it's like, okay, so everyone fucking hates me. So it's not your fault. It's just contextual where I'm like, I don't want to poke the bear in case I said something that, and I know that's not the case. Emotional brain, catastrophizing brain, Taya's tendency to take it, catastrophize, and also it's like, it's not about you. Speaking of narcissism, it's not about you, fuckhead. He's got shit going on, I would imagine that putting people to sleep day in, day out, you would feel an awful lot of fucking temptation to you put people out of, if you had the skills, I could see how that would be. No, I'm joking. That's a bad joke. Oh, divorce. Oh, okay. Yeah, see, there you go. I'm sorry about that. If you want any experience with that, I've been the dad in the divorce situation. So, yeah, I'm sorry that that's happening. It gets better. It really, and, okay, here you go. It takes way longer than you think it's going to take. When you think you're over it, you're not over it. It's only when seriously, it takes a long time and it takes longer than you think to get over it. And don't use other people. This is my only advice, is to not fuck with the emotions of other people while you're going through shit. That's all I would, I've been there, done that, strung people along, all that stuff. It's part of the process. But I'm here for you if you want to talk. Am I the other woman? Okay. Good luck. I'm very happily married. But, when polygamy is legal, that's fine. If it all breaks down, we can all just, let's have an orgy at my fucking commune that I'm going to build. I don't know how. I don't even own my own house, let alone a fucking commune. But if it all breaks down, we've got a shot. I've been playing too much Fallout 76. I seem to feel like maybe if you play Fallout 76 or the Fallout games, if you just claim the workshop, you're good. That's my advice. We'll just claim a workshop and see how we can get enough lead to fix the turrets that, against all the fucking lizards and shit, and then we'll be fine. We'll be fine. That's how you survive. You just pick up a battery and a shovel and get some coat hangers and you can build a house. That's how it works. You scrap it and build a house out of coat hangers. I'm prepared for the apocalypse. Anyway, I'm going to go. On that note, I'm going to have to be friends with some preppers, but I annoyed them. I think they... All right, anyway, love you. Preppers are good for food storage advice. They know their shit. I love that. Okay, here we go. I love that when I was looking up how to dehydrate fruit and stuff, because I got that Instant Pot, air fryer thing, and I was like, oh, I can dehydrate stuff. I look it up. And I love how they're like, you can dehydrate your mandarins, your strawberries, and here's the prep. And also, here's how you dehydrate and vacuum seal your ammo. It's like, cool. All right. That's where the nudge is. I think we'll just, we'll stick to the strawberries. All right. Anyway, I'm going to go. Thanks for watching. Good luck, Thomas. Again, you're always a patron, whether there's money or not. You're a supporter. That's where, when the website's set up, I can just give people access. So now I know that you want access, I'll give you access. I just wasn't, anyway. So I'm just going to make sure that I can give access or gift access and take money out of the equation and it be not a thing. It's just, I hate the fact that money is a thing. That's why I just don't like asking people to pay their bill. I expect it. And then we get it out of the way. It's an honest transaction. It's like, yeah. Anyway, bye. I love you. You're all great. And I hope you're okay. And we're getting through. I feel nature is healing. I hope nature is healing. Don't trust fuckwits. Lots of messages. I'll be back later in the week. I think I'm going to stream Friday. Now that the studio's set up, I'll probably stream more regularly. But uni starts again, biological psychology starts. I've been avoiding it. It's a hindrance to everything else. Like remembering all the fucking, it's interesting, but I'm not good at stuff where I got to remember parts of bodies and neurons and shit. It's not that difficult. It's boring. I'm sure I'll be fine. I am a medical nerd, so I'm just being an idiot. For some reason, it's just uni manages to strip away knowledge. Again, it's just somehow they manage to take all the fun out of learning everything. It's like, I love psychology, but I'm at postgrad, so I'm in undergrad hell. So it's like remembering parts of the things and memory. It's like, no, I looked that up. So I understand it's like. No, let's solve the world's problems, please. Okay, I love you. Yes, Josie and the Pussycats. That's your homework. It's such an amazing allegory for everything that it explains woke shit. It really does explain the phenomenon that we're going through. It's just on the internet and you see it. And it's like, but Parker Posey does this sort of sinister label executive who is manipulating sort of them through brainwashing and stuff. And it works really well. But the moral of the story is still there as well. Rachel Lee Cook's the main thing, but Kay Hanley from Letters to Cleo is actually the soundtrack person, right? She did the actual singing and the music and everything. It's fucking great soundtrack too. But Rachel Lee Cook was miming. But the moral is that basically, they like the real music without the shit. If you create something that's good, people will listen to it and like it and become fans without all the manipulation. You don't have to manipulate. But the problem is they want to sell us shit and bullshit rather than real good art. And real good art, I think we're going to go into a period. I'm seeing this with comedy. I know I said I was going to go, but we're seeing this with comedy where you're seeing someone come out worse and you're seeing comedians come out better comedians. Russell Howard came out a better comedian, and you're seeing it like Jimmy Carr came out good. He did his little fucking, throw a bone to anti-vax, but then he went in fucking hard. Ricky Gervais, I'm not sure he became a better comedian out of this. We'll wait for the next special because it was dated. And then it was still all right. It was still funny. Still, I still love Gervais. People become better or worse comedians. Louis C.K., I'm not sure. I think he might become a better comedian. Stanhope will definitely become a better comedian. Rogan, worse. I think Rogan's getting fucking worse. I think he's just going into this rabbit hole of stupid, and I don't think, it's interesting to see how people become detached from the real world around them with wealth. And that's why I love Doug Stanhope, because he deliberately fucking hangs out in the real world with real people, and I think that that's really important because people are good and honest and funny and fucking inappropriate. And like the world could learn a lot from Australia where we just go, yep, ha, you fucked up. You're censored by the fuckwit, but we've got somewhere else to go. It's not our only voice. And that's why I just diversify where I am and hope for the best. And, but yeah, I don't like a paywall. I'm just going to give people access who ask for access and hope that they want to pay. That's the best way to go. I don't know. I don't know how to do this without. Yeah, anyway, it sucks. System sucks. Revolution, please. Non-violent revolution, please. Okay. Love you. Stay well. And, yeah, I'm sorry. Everyone's going through shit. I'm going through shit. Still got illness lingering over me all the time. Shortened lifespan. Financial stress, being squeezed and stuff. And, everyone's feeling that. And it's probably going to get worse. Tim Dillon's fucking podcast this week was funny. You should listen to that too. But yeah, seek comfort in those that tell it like it is. Tim Dillon's funny. I hope that honesty will prevail. And they're just trying, they're trying their best. The corporate, they will try their best. But so far we remain undefeated. But that relies on people I'm surprised. It just feels like the numbers are not in our favor. Or it feels like we need to just reach, everyone's thinking it, we just need to break that ice. That's what happened, everything starts with I don't like saying brick because it implies violence, and I'm a pacifist. But at the same time, every revolution starts with one brick. And maybe we're just seeing those bricks right now, bit by bit by bit, and it's just going to, it's not implausible that America is going to split in two, if not collapse. It's not implausible. Many political scientists, not just some dickhead like me talking on the internet, are actually saying that this is like different from before. But then again, they've said that before as well. America white knuckles it. It's what they do. It's why we love them. But things are going to get weird because, those least equipped to handle this issue are the ones in charge. We'll see how we go. Let's just keep the humanity going. And just if you've got kids, just talk to them. They fucking got it figured out. Gen Z are all right. Gen X and Gen Z together can fucking... Well, the problem is that none of us can be asked. The boomers and the millennials are motivated. Fucking Gen X and Gen Z sit there and go, fuck it, what are you going to do? That's our problem. But, talk to your kids. Your kids are all right. My son makes me laugh. Fuck, I wish I could have him as on my show. He is the funniest fucking person I've ever... then again, I've improv'd with him since he was born. Like one of the things that we've done since he was little, I go, how you doing? How's the wife? And then he goes, dead. And then he starts talking. This was since he was like 10 years old. Oh, how's the wife? Dead. And then he tells me how she died. And then he's like, well, I got a new wife, but she died too. And then he starts this whole thing, and he's always improv. So we've always had that sort of thing in our family. So it's no real surprise that he's just fucking laser sharp. But yeah, it's funny. Bosco, actually check out his streams too. Don't tell him I sent you. But flick him some money. He'd like that on Twitch. He'd like that. We've got to set it up so he can monetize. But anyway, he's actually technically represented by me. I'm his manager until he's 18, but yeah. Because I technically have a publishing company, so whatever. Anyway, I've got to go. If I pay the registration fee that's due. Should do that, probably. Anyway, I gotta go. I love you. Have a great day. I'll see you soon. I stayed way longer than I should have. If you watch the replay, congratulations, you won a prize. I'm going to send... patrons, I'm going to try and do something. I'm going to send out something. I don't know, print or... I think people have too many coffee mugs, so I'm trying to think of something different, but something nice and original and art and stuff. Something. Anyway, I'll do something. All right. Bye. 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 Hang on. Where's my button? Bye.